interrupted on the, or rather during the Wednesday, the 22nd of April 2026, that is during the afternoon sitting. So this afternoon, this debate is coming up for consideration before it moves into the next stage. The House Standing Order number 53, paragraph 1, provides for senators to be able to request for statements from various standing committees. And this afternoon, these statements that will be sought include that from Embu, the Senator for Embu County, Honorable Alexander Mundigi. He will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations. This is regarding the excessive use of force by police during demonstrations that were held on the 14th of April, the year 2026 in Embu County. The House is about to commence. The Speaker has directed that the quorum bell be rung, and we have seen more senators making their way into the House, so we believe that the quorum is about to be attained or raised, and once the House attains that quorum, then we shall, without any further delay, hand you over back to follow up on the proceedings of this afternoon. In pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 53, paragraph 1, the Senator for Bungoma County this afternoon, Honorable David Wakoli, will also seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health. This is with regards to the status of disbursement of funds by the Social Health Authority, commonly abbreviated as SHA, to health facilities in Bungoma County. The Senator for Nairobi City County, Honorable Edwin Sifuna, will also seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health. This is regarding the onboarding of police officers, their prisons counterparts, and their dependents onto the Usalama medical cover. Nominated Senator Honorable Hamida Kibwana will also this afternoon seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Cohesion, Equal Opportunity and Regional Integration regarding remarks attributed to the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC. This afternoon, also the Senator for Taita Taveta County, Honorable Jonas Maruma, will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the Bachuma Disease-Free Zone Livestock Center in Taita Taveta. The House about to correct. More senators have walked in. We can see the whip from the minority side. Senator for, all right, allow me to hand you over.
Be orderly. Clerk, you may proceed to call the first order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion.
The Senate Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Notice of motion, approval of sittings of the Senate to be held in Kilifi County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That aware that the Senate of Kenya is established under Article 93 of the Constitution, and its main role as set out at Article 96 is to represent, serve, and protect the interests of the counties and their governments. Further aware of the critical role that the Senate plays in the interlinkage between national and county level of governments, and the need to enhance the interaction between the Senate and county governments, as a means of bringing the Senate closer to the counties and the general public, acknowledging the recommendation of the Senate Business Committee that a sitting of the Senate be held away from the traditional premises in Parliament buildings, Nairobi, during the term of the 13th Parliament, and the subsequent resolution of the Senate made on 8th March 2023 to hold plenary and committee sittings in the counties for a 1-week period within the month of September in every session of the 4th Senate, except during an election year, with the objective to: 1. Promote the role and work of the Senate and enhance public awareness regarding the business of the Senate and Parliament in general. 2. Highlight existing and new opportunities for engagement in the legislative processes. 3. Develop and strengthen partnerships at the county level of governments. And 4. Provide an opportunity to members and staff of county assemblies to learn and share best practices with senators and parliamentary officers. Further acknowledging the successes made during the previous sittings of the Senate outside Nairobi, held in Uasin Gishu, Kitui, Turkana, and Busia counties in 2018, 2019, 2023, and 2025 respectively. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 1261 of the Constitution, the Senate resolves to hold its plenary and committee sittings in Kilifi County from 21st to 25th September. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Statements pursuant to Standing Order 53-1. Senator for Embu County, the Honorable Senator Alexander Mundigi. Senator Fernande, what is that for, really?
Mr. Speaker, sir, request for statement on police brutality in Embu County. I rise person to Standing Order 53-1 to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security and Defense and Foreign Relations on a matter of national concern regarding the excessive use of force by police during demonstration held on 14th April 2026 in Embu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, with the pronounced sorrow, the people of Embu County mourns the tragic death of Maurice Njue Njoka and Patrick Kariuki Munene, who were peacefully exercising their constitutional right as enshrined under Article 37 of the Constitution, as they demonstrated against poor service delivery at the Isiara Level 4 Hospital in Mbeere North. The circumstances surrounding their death raise serious concern about the conduct of the law enforcement officers and the protection of fundamental freedom during public demonstration. In the statement, the committee should address the following: whether the ministry, through the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, has initiated investigations into the conduct of the officers who opened fire upon peaceful demonstrators, and provide the current status of just investigations, the timeline within which the people of Embu County can expect the release of the comprehensive report detailing findings and recommendations on the actions to be taken against any officer found culpable. 3. Interim measures in place by the ministry to assist the beloved families, including plans for compensation, the nature of child support, and the proposed timelines for disbursement. 4. Strategies being implemented by the ministry to prevent recurrences and to ensure that future public demonstrations are policed in a manner that upholds constitutional rights, minimize the risk of loss of lives, and restore public confidence in law enforcement agencies, including psychological assessment to ensure officers deployed are fit in duty. Senator Alexander Munyimondigi, Dr. M. County.
Senator for Bungoma, the Honorable David Wakoli.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Mundigi, can you keep your cool? Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Request for statement on the Social Health Authority SHA disbursement and pending payments to hospitals in Bungoma County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise as pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health on matter of county-wide concern regarding the status of disbursement of funds by the Social Health Authority to health facilities in Bungoma County. In the statement, the committee should address the following. 1. Total SHA funds released to Bungoma County health facilities since inception, dates of disbursement, flow of funds, responsible offices, and internal control mechanisms. 2. A list of all public hospitals contracted / accredited by SHA for primary health care, amounts disbursed per facility, pending and paid claims, duration of delays, and outstanding balances. 3. Mechanisms for tracking disbursements, claims, approvals, rejection, pending verification, availability of records, and public disclosure to stakeholders. 4. The extent to which disbursements match the cost of services provided, including details of level 2 and 3 facilities that received equitable funding, approved budgets, timelines, and current status of reimbursement. 5. Predictability of payments across facilities over the last 3 financial years, efficiency levels of the direct payment model, accountability, value for money, service delivery outcomes, and implications of accreditation gaps for equitable access. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Senator Wafula Wakoli, CBS MP. Thank you.
Senator for Nairobi City County, the Honorable Edwin Sifuna.
Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health on a matter of national concern regarding the onboarding of police officers, their prisons counterparts, and their dependents onto the Usalama medical cover. Mr. Speaker, members of our security services operate under uniquely demanding conditions, exposing them to occupational risks that are unlike those in any other profession. It is therefore essential that their medical cover be tailored to these realities. The transition from the consortium of private providers to the Usalama medical scheme must safeguard national interests by ensuring that their benefits are not diminished but strengthened. A well-supported police and prison service is the backbone of public safety, and robust medical cover directly enhances professionalism, efficiency, and morale in service to the nation. In the statement, therefore, the committee should address the following. Number 1, details of the cover frameworks for police and prisons officers under the new Usalama medical scheme, including the scope of coverage, specific provisions, and any exclusions in the cover that may affect officers or their dependents. Number 2, a comparison between the Usalama scheme and the previous consortium-based cover, highlighting improvements, differences, and the rollout process to officers and their families. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, the strategies in place by the State Department for Medical Services to resolve complaints and address concerns raised by officers regarding the adequacy and the implementation of the new cover. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Hamida Kibwana. The statement is dropped. Senator for Taita Taveta County, the Honorable Maruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to seek for a statement on Bachuma Disease-Free Zone, Livestock Center in Taita Taveta County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a matter of county-wide concern regarding the Bachuma Disease-Free Zone Livestock Center in Taita Taveta County. In the statement, the committee should address the following. 1, the ownership status of the land on which the Bachuma Livestock Center is situated, with provision of the relevant ownership documents. 2, the data at the center, including stock data, cattle, sheep, goats, and other animals, and its contribution to livestock development in the county. 3, the market targets, commercial objectives, and value chain opportunities associated with the center. Mr. Speaker, I have another one on registration of elderly persons and persons living with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on a matter of county-wide concern regarding the non-registration of elderly persons and persons living with disabilities in Taita Taveta County since August 2023. In the statement, the committee should address the following. 1, the reasons for the suspension of registration of persons, of elderly persons, and persons living with disabilities in Taita Taveta County since August 2023. 2, the government policy framework governing the registration of elderly persons and persons living with disabilities. And 3, the measures in place and timelines for resumption of the registration exercise in Taita Taveta County. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Maruma, you've read your 2 statements. Okay. Senator Hamida, you may proceed with your statement, which has just been reinstated.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My statements regarding the Chairperson of Ethics and remarks by the Chairperson of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Cohesion, Equal Opportunity and Regional Integration on a matter of national concern regarding recent remarks attributed to the Chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC. Mr. Speaker, sir, the statement of Bishop Retired Dr. David Oginde, EBS, Chairperson of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that women are increasingly becoming major drivers and facilitators of mega corruption scandals, yet at the lower levels, they are the victims. It is misleading, internally inconsistent, and risks entrenching harmful stereotypes, portraying women simultaneously as primary perpetrators and victims distorts public understanding rather than strengthening the fight against corruption. Corruption is a systemic challenge that cuts across all genders and institutions. To single out women without clear, publicly sustained evidence undermines fairness, accountability, and inclusivity, while discouraging women's participation in governance at a time when gender equality is a national priority. In the statement, the committee should address the following. 1, whether empirical data or credible research exists to substantiate the claims made by the Chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC. Number 2, the measures in place to ensure that public office holders communicate responsibly and on the basis of evidence, particularly on sensitive matters relating to gender. The last, but not the least, the steps being taken to strengthen the fight against corruption through institution reforms and accountability mechanisms without attributing criminal conduct to any specific gender. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Senate Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bishop Oginde is right. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 57-1 to hereby present the business for the week commencing Tuesday the 28th of April 2026. Before I present this business, Mr. Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to welcome colleagues back from the short recess, and I hope you had a good time of rest together with your families and constituents, and are now rejuvenated and ready to be part and parcel of the second session of the second part of the fifth session. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is the status of legislative business as of today. Today, Thursday, the 23rd of April, 2026. We have 64 bills that are pending conclusion, of which 47 are at the second reading stage, 16 are at the committee of the whole, and 1 is awaiting first reading. 14 motions are pending conclusion. 17 petitions are pending conclusion by respective standing committees. Of these petitions, 15 are due for reporting, and 492 statements pursuant to Standing Order number 53-1 are under consideration by the respective standing committees. From the foregoing, the business of the Senate is already cut out. You will note from today's order paper, Mr. Speaker, from Standing Order number 9, 10, 11, and 12 are bills that have already been debated and are now ready for division at second reading, and some of which have been on the order paper for more than a month now. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge all senators to remain in the chambers so that we may proceed and vote on these bills. I drafted this statement, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, so I am sure that today being a Thursday afternoon, the die is already cast on whether that can come to fruition. Mr. Speaker, we will aim for the usual days where we normally raise sufficient delegations for vote, and the whips who are in the House, both of them, including the majority and the minority whip, Mr. Speaker, need to help us so that we clear those bills from our order papers. At the sitting of the Senate on Tuesday the 28th, the tentative business will include business that we will not have concluded from today's order paper, as well as any other business indicated in the notice paper. The tentative business for the morning sitting on Wednesday the 29th, Mr. Speaker, will include questions to the various cabinet secretaries. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we had a lengthy session with the 2 cabinet secretaries for Interior and Health, Mr. Speaker. And I am surprised, Mr. Speaker, with how, in fact, some of the approvals, Mr. Speaker, because this includes your office as well as the clerk's table. There's a document the CS for Health tabled here yesterday, and it answers all the questions which I had the majority whip asking this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, maybe perhaps you can say the statement was approved before that document reaches the clerk's table. Next week, we'll have the CS for Labor, the CS for Mining, and the CS for ICT, who will be responding to various questions by different members. In this regard, I want to request that the senators who filed those questions to the 3 cabinet secretaries to ensure that they're in the chamber, Mr. Speaker, because much as it is possible to request a colleague to ask a question for you, they don't have the background of why you asked that question. If you observed yesterday, Mr. Speaker, for example, when the CSs were responding to statements, or questions rather, from the people that had been asked to ask on behalf of those who drafted the questions, Mr. Speaker, after the response, you could see that those who had asked the questions were ill-prepared to ask any supplementary questions. And that's why it is important, members, that when you draft a question, find time to come and listen to the response so that you can interrogate the CS even further beyond the answers that they bring to the House. The tentative business for the afternoon on that day will include any business we will not have concluded on Tuesday. Some of the business, Mr. Speaker, that is at the second reading include the County Government State Officers Removal from Office Procedures Bill, the County Government's Amendment Bill, the Street Naming and Property Addressing Bill, County Government Laws, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, which is the debate is going on. It was moved yesterday by Senator Eddy. And there are various bills that are the Committee of the Whole, which include the Heritage and Museums Bill, Statutory Instruments, County Hall of Fame, and so on and so forth, Mr. Speaker. There is also a motion, Mr. Speaker, on delinking junior secondary schools from primary schools. I don't know what that intends to achieve, Mr. Speaker, but we will listen to the wisdom of the mover, Mr. Speaker. The projected business for Thursday will include any that will not have concluded. Mr. Speaker, I'd wish also to bring to your attention that there are many bills which the Senate has concluded and are presently before the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I'll wait for you to finish with the party leader of the ODM party, then before requesting you. No, I need the attention of the Speaker, not the House, because it is the Speaker that can resolve this matter for us. Yes, the ruling party, ODM. Which one? No, his certificate is fake, the original one. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, because this is a matter I can engage you outside, what I wanted to say to the House is that there are many bills which this House has concluded and they are pending before the National Assembly. I have today about 4 or 5 bills from the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, which are on my desk and I have refused to process, Mr. Speaker, because the speed with which, as a House, we conclude business from our sister House is not commensurate to the speed with which they conclude business from this House, including very important business, Mr. Speaker. Even people-centric issues, like this House in 2023 passed the Tea Amendment Bill, livestock, and so many other bills that I can think of, Mr. Speaker, which up to date, Mr. Speaker, continue to struggle to find conclusion in that particular House. Mr. Speaker, I believe that you're the only one who can resolve this matter. I know you had written to Senator Moses Wetangula, the Speaker of the National Assembly. I want to plead with you, Mr. Speaker, that you treat that matter with the urgency it deserves. For example, Mr. Speaker, I know that our Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, you remember in our SBC, we are good citizens and we comply with what the courts tell us. The courts have told Parliament that do not try or attempt to process any constitutional amendment bill without a referendum law, Mr. Speaker. And our legal department, alongside our Justice and Legal Affairs Department, Mr. Speaker, drafted a very good referendum bill. Unfortunately, for about, I think, almost 3 months now, the concurrence process is still with your counterpart in the National Assembly. I want to request, Mr. Speaker, in public interest, because a referendum law is good for any country, Mr. Speaker, and we need it for the good of the nation, that you also help unlock that. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, with those main remarks, I beg to lay this statement on the table of the Senate. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honourable senators, I will allow comments for not more than 15 minutes on the statements that have been sought pursuant to Standing Order 53-1, starting with Senator Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to comment on the statements that has been read. And I'll start with the Senator Maruma's statement. Mr. Speaker, it's very important for the funds from SHA to be dispersed in good time, so that the hospitals can be able to equip their facilities with medication, so that our people can stop suffering for lack of medical services in the hospitals. Mr. Speaker, the citizens are going through very hard time. And once they pay the SHA and they go to hospital, and then they cannot receive the treatment, they cannot even be given medication, simply because SHA has not dispersed the disbursement in good time to the hospitals to be able to restock the hospitals with medication. It's very wrong and our people are suffering. And so I really support this statement, and I pray that the Committee of Health will deal with SHA in the right manner, that they'll be able to do that. And Mr. Speaker, especially the PWDs, also registration of PWDs, they should be facilitated. Some of them cannot even be able to travel by matatu because they are totally disabled, and the people who live with them cannot even afford to hire a taxi or anything to take them to a hospital. So Committee of Health should look into that and deal with the CS so that the doctors can move to where the PWDs are, especially the elderly. I'll also comment about the statement for Senator Sifuna, the Senator Nairobi, about the Usalama medical cover for police force. Mr. Speaker, police officers are very important people to this country. They really take care of security, and so they should really be taken care of when they fall sick, and their family members also. They should be taken good care of. And any delays or inefficiencies risks exposing disciplinary forces who serve in the high-risk conditions to inadequate medical covers. It causes a lot of suffering to them. And Mr. Speaker, if there are people here to be taken good care of.
Senator Okanyuri. Honorable Senators, you have 3 minutes to make your contributions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to comment on the statement by Senator Mudigi on the killing of two people in Embu. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, the cycle continues where we'll have investigations being conducted by IPOA and then the matter will go silent. When you actually look at what actually ended up to the death of these people, they were protesting against poor services in a local hospital in their county, and it's very sad that people are protesting against better service delivery end up dying in such a manner, Mr. Speaker. And I wish to condemn that and ask that investigations are conducted and family gets justice. I commiserate with their families. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to support the statement by Senator Mwaruma on non-registration of older persons and persons with disability. This is a challenge not just in Taita Taveta, but across the country. And most of the times, maybe families out of stigma stay away and do not want to disclose about the cases they have back home. That's one of the reasons. But I also feel the ministry has not been able to reach out to most of these people so that they are able to be in the database to access services which eventually assist them. Mr. Speaker, non-registration is a very critical issue because without that data, these people are not able to access very many essential services which are being given to them. So I hope the committee is going to look into that matter seriously so that this is addressed with immediate effect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute. Allow me to contribute to the statement by Senator Hamida. Now, Senator Hamida, I will let me not address you. My contribution to that statement, Honorable Speaker, is that the Bishop Oginde, when speaking to this issue, I read that statement a few times. My understanding was that he was raising a disappointment at the manner in which women, who I think in his view have been held in higher moral ground, are now participating in corruption. In my view, it is a genuine concern that we must, as women, we need to know that we are held at a higher standard than the rest of the people. And I've always prided in the fact that I still believe a woman does better when given opportunity in leadership. And I believe Bishop Oginde's concern was that we are now being caught up in games that are largely masculine. It is the masculine game that has brought this country to the bottom. It is the masculine leadership that has entrenched this country in corruption. It is the masculine leadership that has brought lawlessness to this country. And I think Bishop Oginde is asking us as women, the country has its hopes on you. Can you be among the ones who will have the moral ground to bring back this country to a level where there is no corruption? So in that respect, I wish to state that I personally don't take Bishop Oginde's statement as one of stereotype or renegading women, but one that is actually cautioning us that we are slipping through and getting into the habits of the men. And as women, let us heed that call and let us pull away from that space. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kinyua.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Nasimama kuchangia taarifa iliyoletwa na Seneta wa Embu, Seneta Mundigi, kuhusu kuwawa kwa Morris Joe Njoka na Patrick Kariuki Munene, waliokuwa wakifanya maandamano ya amani wakitafuta wawe na huduma bora katika hospitali ya umma ambayo huduma zake zimedorora sana. Bwana Spika, Bwana Spika, kisheria tunakubalika mtu yeyote kufanya maandamano ya amani wakitaka huduma ziweze kuimarishwa katika ile hospitali yao ya ishara. Bwana Spika, jambo la kuvunja moyo sana ni ya kwamba maafisa wa usalama ambao wanapaswa kulinda mali na maisha ya wananchi waliwafumania, kuwavamia na hatimaye kuwaua. Kwa hivyo kamati ambayo inahusika inapaswa iliangazie hili jambo Bwana Spika, kwa sababu limekuwa ni jambo la mazoea kwa maafisa ambao wanapaswa kulinda mali na maisha ya wananchi kuwavamia na kuwaua wananchi wale wale ambao wanaolipa ushuru Bwana Spika. Lakini Bwana Spika, yote 9-10, ninaposoma taarifa hii ninaona ya kwamba huduma zimedorora katika hii hospitali ya ishara. Na tumekuwa tukisema mara si moja ya kwamba magavana wamezembea katika kazi zao. Lakini Bwana Spika, ni kinaya kwa sababu nimekuwa nikimsikiza seneta mwenzangu akisema vile ambavyo governor wa Embu amelivalia swala njuga kufanya maendeleo pale Mbere. Bi Spika, kwa hivyo ni kinaya kwangu, na kwa hivyo ningependa kusema ya kwamba kamati itakayohusika iliangalie hili jambo la maafisa wa usalama, badala ya kuwalinda wananchi ni kuwapiga risasi na kuwaua. Bwana Spika, vile vile kuna taarifa ambayo imeletwa na seneta wa Nairobi kuhusu bima ya matibabu ya maafisa hawa usalama. Bwana Spika, tukiwa tunaangalia taarifa ile, Bwana Spika, ni vizuri tujue askari wetu wanafanya kazi katika maswala ama katika sehemu ambazo ni ngumu zaidi wanapofanya hii kazi yao. Bwana Spika, kwa hivyo bima hii inapaswa ishughulikie maslahi yao, ikizingatia kwamba kazi wanayoifanya si kazi ya kawaida kama wale watu wengine. Bwana Spika, wanafanya kazi kwa masaa mengi, wanafanya kazi ambayo inahatarisha hata maisha yao. Kwa hivyo hii bima inapaswa iangazie familia zao, wakijulikana kwamba maafisa wa usalama wanafanya kazi ambayo ni tofauti kidogo na kazi zingine ambayo inafanywa na nchi wa Kenya. Bwana Spika, kwa hivyo nataka kumpongeza seneta wa Nairobi, hata ijapokuwa hawa wanawatushutumu maafisa.
Honorable Senators, I have a communication from the chair. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon a visiting delegation of lecturers and political science and international relations students from the Catholic University of East Africa in Nairobi City County. The delegation comprises 2 lecturers and 24 students who are visiting the Senate for an academic exposition. On behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them a fruitful, enriching visit. I thank you. I also wish to recognize, to read a second statement. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of a visiting delegation of students from East Africa Pentecostal Church, Mwichiung, Sunday School, and Meru County. The delegation comprises 13 teachers and 74 students who are visiting the Senate for an academic exposition. On behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them a fruitful and enriching visit. I thank you. I'd like to invite a Senate Majority Leader to welcome the first delegation that is from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. And I would like to invite, is the Senator from Meru? Then wait. I'd like to ask the Minority Leader to welcome the delegation from Pentecostal Church, Mwichiung Sunday School in Meru County. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I join you on behalf of the House to welcome these political science students from the Catholic University who are here on a study tour, interacting with politicians, or political leaders rather, Mr. Speaker, who are serving in the legislature. Mr. Speaker, I do hope that during the time that they have watched debate, they have picked 1 or 2 things out of the trade and the science that they study. Mr. Speaker, you know, if there is a trade currently under threat in the country, is this trade of the political science? Because there is a man moving around the country who, from his utterances, you can tell that...
Senator Cherargei, I would like to request that you actually consult in low tones. For our guests, we don't usually behave badly. I hope we can get this going well. Majority Leader, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Cherargei is about to behave like that man I was talking about, but I know he does better. Another one who masquerades as a political scientist, Mr. Speaker, but the things he says, you can tell that his understanding and appreciation of the body Republic of Kenya is wanting. So my challenge to these students is that they be better than us, the current political class, Mr. Speaker, and serve the country with distinction to the greatest honor. Finally, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry, I'd be remiss if I don't appreciate that there are this visiting delegation from the, I don't know if they are Sunday school teachers like myself. Besides politics, Madam Speaker, the job that I love doing the most is teaching Sunday school. And I'd be remiss if I don't appreciate and celebrate them for the great work that they do, because they are building the church of the future. And for that, I celebrate them. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I'd like to give 1 minute to the Senator, 1.5 minutes to the Senator of Nairobi. Catholic University is in Nairobi, and the Senator has made a plea that give him a second.
Speaker, you have saved yourself a lot of trouble, because I don't, the students of, who come from Nairobi, they usually don't take it very kindly being addressed by rural senators, and when their senator is here. Honorable Speaker, there are nuances, there are small things about Nairobi that these characters from upcountry will not understand. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to welcome the students...
Order Senator Cherargei and Majority Leader, please. Let's listen to Senator Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, let me take this opportunity to welcome the students from Catholic University As is common knowledge, first of all, I'm a Catholic. This is an institution that we are very proud of because it molds students all around, Honorable Speaker. And we have continued to urge the government to continue to meet its obligations to private universities, including Catholic University. As we speak, Honorable Speaker, the government of Kenya owes Catholic University a whooping 6 billion shillings in unpaid capitation. So I would be remiss because these are things the majority leader will not address, which is why you need leaders of the opposition to speak on these things. The total bill owed by this government to private universities is 60 billion. We want that institution to be paid that money so that, Honorable Speaker, these students can continue to enjoy good facilities and good education at the Catholic University. I want to disclose also that I have a final year student from the Catholic University working in my office as an intern, Honorable Speaker. And she's a fine lady. We are hoping that she will be able to graduate this year and, you know, release her as a good citizen into the public. So with those many remarks, I thank you, Honorable Speaker. And at this juncture, this is where you know senators from Nairobi are different. We will meet outside there as the team from Nairobi. There are things this majority leader cannot do that the senator of Nairobi is very capable of doing. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I will just give Hamida 1 minute only. Hamida is a current student at Catholic University, and I think it's only fair we give her 1 second.
Mr. Speaker, karibuni sana, Madam Speaker. I want to also welcome you, my fellow comrades. I am a student. I'm doing my master's in business management. I'm defending my thesis now, hopefully to graduate by October. I really appreciate, to seeing you here. And some of you, of course, will be, sitting on the same seats that we are sitting now. So it's good to feel, to have the feel of the Senate or the Parliament. So far, we are also trying to organize something with you, and I'll bring my colleagues to the Catholic University with your President Brian, so that at least we can have tete-a-tete, and you can meet the senators, especially Senator Sifuna of Nairobi, meeting, with you, my fellow students. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker. Welcome again.
Senate Minority Leader, Senator Mazayo, on the second delegation.
Asante sana, Bispika. Bispika, kwanza nataka kujiunga na wewe kwa kuwakaribisha waalimu na wanafunzi kutoka East African Pentecostal Church, Mwachiung Sunday School, huko maeneo ya Meru. Kuwakaribisha kujiunga na wewe ni kwamba nataka hawa wanafunzi wamekuja hapa, wamejionea viongozi katika bunge la Senate, wakiwa hawa ndio maseneta wa Kenya, na nina hakika katika wale ambao wamekuja hapa kama wanafunzi watajifunza mengi, na wameona, na ninajua azma yao ya kwamba pengine katika maishani wengine wetu sisi tukiondoka hapa nataka kuona ya kwamba hao wanafunzi kutoka Meru wengine wamekuwa masenators na wamekuja hapa. Hiyo ni ndoto ambayo mnaweza kuikamilisha katika maisha yenu, na kujeni kwenu hapa kumeweza pia vile vile kuwafundisha mengi, na mkitoka hapa najua mkirudi nyumbani mtaongea na wenzenu na jamii zenu, na nina hakika katika mafunzo hayo mtaondoka hapa na moja ama mawili ambao mmejifundisha yataweza kuwasaidia katika siku za usoni. Asante sana Bispika kwa kuniambia niweze kukaribisha hawa wasichana ama wavulana wakiwa na mashemegi zangu, kwa sababu mimi nimeoa Meru, na sasa hawa wakiwa hapa mimi najifurahia sana. Mkiona shemegi yenu, baba yenu ama ndugu yenu akisimama hapa, mjue pia nyinyi mnaweza kusimama mahali kama hapa. Asanteni sana.
We now go back to the statements, and I have Senator Okech. Senator Sifuna, you actually dropped off, I think, because of this other. Senator Sifuna, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Speaker, the system still logs me out once you give me an opportunity to welcome the students. But I wanted to very briefly touch on the statement by Senator Mundigi. Honorable Speaker, it was quite heartbreaking that we lost another 2 young people in Ishiara, in Embu County, arising from peaceful protests. As Senator Kinyo has pointed out, Patrick Munene was only 21 years old, Honorable Speaker. Maurice Njoka was 32 years old. These are young lives that have been cut short very unnecessarily, Honorable Speaker. And the problem of service delivery in Embu hospitals did not start yesterday. I am sure, Senator Mundigi, you know the conversations that we've had with you and your governor in the Committee of Public Accounts. There was, in fact, another protest just the other day at Runyenjes Level 4, and this time they were protesting the lack of a male maternity ward, not maternity, a male ward in Runyenjes Level 4 hospital. So, Honorable Speaker, as you have noticed these days, I no longer discuss the expired MOU with ODM and UDA, because one of the things that we had written in that expired MOU was that the government of the day would respect the right to peaceful protest under Article 37. Our expectation would be that, or was when we were signing that document, that no other person needed to die exercising their rights under Article 37. These 2 deaths bring the number of people who have been shot by police during demonstrations, Honorable Speaker, since we signed that MOU last year, to over 30 people that have been killed at the hands of the police. And the problem we have is that immediately such things happen, you start hearing people talking about compensation. There is no replacement of value for life. I have seen some proposals saying, oh, the people who have lost their loved ones should be paid 2 million shillings. 2 million shillings for a life, Honorable Speaker. That is what we are talking about. And we are looking for the money that we have been promised for compensation. We're not seeing it. We want something higher, Honorable Speaker. We want accountability. We want accountability for the police officers who are doing this. This morning, this entire morning, we spent the Committee of Security with the IG of Police and the DCI. Honorable Speaker, the IG of Police told us that it is possible for you to trace and track every firearm and every bullet that is used by the police officers during this protest. How is it then possible, Honorable Speaker, that we have never seen accountability up to today for all these 30 young people whose lives have been cut short? We want to see accountability before people start discussing the issue of compensation. Honorable Speaker, we cannot go on like this. We cannot go on like this. We need the constitutionally guaranteed rights to be respected by the government, and there is no point. Nobody needs to die in a protest, Honorable Speaker. I am happy that at least at Runyenjes Hospital, there was no one who was shot. The police need to exercise restraint, Honorable Speaker, and nobody should be blaming the victims. I have had some leaders trying to insinuate that the fault is with the protesters. They were protesting poor service delivery at these hospitals. Nobody needs to die protesting over their rights, Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
Senator Fonandi, Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to send my deepest condolences to the families of Maurice Njoka and Patrick Kariuki Munene. So, Speaker, it is very unfortunate that the bullet that is purchased by the taxpayers' money is the same one that has made them be killed, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and this is the point, the Ishara Level 4 Hospital. Madam Speaker, it would not be enough to refer this matter to only National Security Committee. It should also the Health Committee, because on the issue of Runyenjes Level 4 and Ishara Level 4 Hospital, it's similar issues. It's poor service delivery, lack of drugs, lack of medical services, Madam Speaker. Therefore, I want to appeal that if you could also include the Committee on Health so that we can check the quality of facility services that we have in Embu, because it's very unfortunate, Madam Speaker, that Embu continues to have these demonstrations. They have a right, Madam Speaker, under Article 37, that they have a right to demonstrate, to demand for their rights as it should be. And I want to thank Senator Dr. Mundigi for being steadfast and supporting his own people whenever they are being touched, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the final point I want to make is on IPOA. Independent Policing Oversight Authority, Madam Speaker, must up their game. I think we have seen IPOA only appearing as reactive body, Madam Speaker. And I want to call upon, today we were with the Inspector General of Police, and some of the members of Security Committee are here. I don't know whether all of them are here, but I think Senator Sifuna is a member of Security Committee. You must call IPOA. Madam Speaker, 2 years down the line, the young man that was beaten in Nandil's town by the police of Anti-State Police Unit, I've never been arrested or prosecuted, Madam Speaker. There were people that were killed in Kimwani, in Tindre sub-county. They have never been prosecuted up to today, Madam Speaker. What is the work of IPOA? If IPOA does not want to function, we should wrap it up, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I heard Senator Sifuna saying that we cannot compensate. I want to inform him. I know he has been busy with Linda Mwananchi issues. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has come up with a report on how Kenyans who are killed in demonstrations are going to be demonstrated. I think to him, what is expired is because he left ODM. But Madam Speaker, and they must be compensated, they will be compensated. I want to inform him that UDA and ODM just met in State House. The 10-point agenda is still on course. I think he should now preoccupy himself with Linda Mwananchi issues, and we'll see if we will do it in Vihiga and Kisumu, Madam Speaker. But the point I'm trying to make, this 10-point agenda should be implemented fully. And we have agreed, Madam Speaker, that a combination, what is the least that we can do? Madam Speaker, therefore, I support this statement, and if there are men enough, we'll end Vihiga and Kisumu.
What is your point of order? Proceed, Senator Sifuna.
Madam Speaker, you know I am not one to fret because somebody is asking whether I am man enough. You know, the Senator for Nandi cannot utter the words that he uttered at the point when he was concluding his remarks. It's an open threat to a member of this House. He's asking us to demonstrate that we are men enough to go to Vihiga and Kisumu. Honorable Speaker, in that conversation in the morning with the police, we agreed that we want to build a country where everybody is free to sell their policies anywhere in this country. I want to assure the Senator of Nandi, just a minute and then you'll inform me. I want to assure the Senator of Nandi that, yes, the Senator of Nandi is welcome to sell his policies anywhere in this country. You're welcome to Nairobi, you're welcome to Bungoma. We will never threaten you because from your stature alone, we don't need to ask you whether you're man enough. We know. So, Honorable Speaker, you must ask him to expunge that from the record of this House. That is not the politics we want to practice, especially because he's a young man. These are things that we should allow older people in politics to perpetuate. But as a young generation, and there are students sitting here, the example that we must set as a new generation is that I should be able to come to Nandi and say one term and live peacefully.
Honorable Cherargei, I think your final remarks would amount to a threat. When you say that if you're man enough, let's see whether you'll have a meeting in Vihiga or Kisumu, is unfortunate, particularly now that we are, as a country, trying to deal with the issue of Gunism. So I would say, please, get those remarks withdrawn so that we don't look like we are among those leaders who actually... Yeah. Senator Kavindu, I am the one on the chair.
Madam Speaker, as I withdraw, you should withdraw the word one term. Because if I withdraw that statement, the one term, you should
Senator
withdraw one term,
you will not
Speaker.
give me conditions on how. Please withdraw.
Madam Speaker,
Please,
as I
kindly.
withdraw, you should also withdraw one term. Because we are in two terms, Madam Speaker, including the Speaker. We are in two terms.
Senator Cherargei, you have not withdrawn.
I have withdrawn, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Senator Okech, you're next.
Madam Speaker, I also wanted to thank you for this opportunity. I also wanted to just add a voice on the statement by Senator Mudigi on the issue of police brutality in Embu County. And Madam Speaker, I think this is a dichotomous issue. On one hand is an issue of police brutality in response to protesters with serious force that led to deaths. And I want to, first of all, just take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to say sorry to the families of Maurice Njue and Patrick Kariuki. It is sad that young people, and even older people, by the way, Madam Speaker, still lose lives in protests. But Madam Speaker, it's also very important to highlight the cause of this protest, because the cause of this protest, Madam Speaker, as indicated, was that in Ishiara Level 4 hospitals, there has been an ongoing serious, poor services that we keep on seeing. And I have worked tirelessly in the committee of CIPIC as the vice chair. And this is something that we have raised time without number, because level level 4 hospitals in Embu County, as well as level 5, Madam Speaker, have had serious problems. So there is an issue here that we must address of service to our people in these hospitals that now even hesitates our people to go to the streets. I've seen this even in Migori County, Madam Speaker, and I've raised it in this house time without number. And I hope that soon, when the people of Migori will start going to demonstrate against poor services in level 4 hospitals as well as the Migori District Referral Hospital, Mr. Speaker, they will not be met with this kind of force, Madam Speaker. And it is important, Madam Speaker, that this committee must actually be able to call IPOA to tax, Madam Speaker, because the investigations against this kind of brutalities, especially where fatalities have emerged to the extent that people have lost lives, and we keep on seeing, time without number, these investigations going on and on and on, yet the police that commit this kind of crime are just within our borders. The best that sometimes we do get, Madam Speaker, is that sometimes a police officer will be taken away from Meru, and then that police officer is taken maybe to Migori, or taken away from Meru and taken to Turkana in some hardship places, as if that transfer is even commensurate to the kind of damage they cause to these families that go years and years mourning their beloved ones, Madam Speaker. This must be brought to book. These officers must be brought to book, Madam Speaker. And I hope that, Madam Speaker, even as the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, Madam Speaker, is considering people who are going to be compensated since 2017 for having lost lives in this kind of situation, will have mercy to even families that continue to face these kind of injustices. Because it's extremely important, Madam Speaker, that we recognize that compensation cannot replace lives, but it's an important step sometimes to be able to help families be able to deal with the stress that this has necessitated, Madam Speaker. And lastly, Madam Speaker, I also want to say that from the profile that I've seen from these families, Madam Speaker, it is very important that the government of the day, especially the national government, where these police officers are immune to arrest and immune to punishment, must also have mercies on these families and be able to help them deal with the stress that comes with this kind of grief. Not only during the time of dealing with funerals, but even in the gaps that they will leave, perhaps with their families not being able to go to school and not being able to deal with their day-to-day survival, Madam Speaker. So I strongly support this, but it is high time as a country we must put an end to police brutality.
Honorable Senators, I see a whole list of more people wanting to speak. The time that had been allocated by Speaker is over. What I will do is allow maybe just 2 minutes each for those. I will give a space. Senator Abbas, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to also join our colleague, Dr. Mdiki, for the unfortunate situation that has taken place in Embu. Madam Speaker, we have a similar case where a young man has been shot at a barrier in Garissa some 2 days ago. And this is the second incident in Garissa now. The very police officers who are supposed to guide the lives of people have become now the criminals shooting people, which is a very unfortunate situation. Madam Speaker, they could have their own problems, but I think that they should not release their tensions, killing people, innocent people. Honorable Madam Speaker, I also want to condole the family also, both for Garissa family and Embu who lost their young ones. And I want to tell them it is a high time this country has to have a conversation on how best we can be able to handle these behaviors of our police officers. Because this country now has been taken over by goons, and police officers are killing people the way they want to do, have been killing, and trigger-happy officers. I think it's a high time that we need to contain this situation and take action against all these officers. One other thing is, Madam Speaker, when an officer kills somebody, a Kenyan citizen, the officer is moved immediately, either being transferred or hidden somewhere, and then the police say that we're looking for him. How do you look for somebody? He can be arrested immediately. Immediately that somebody kills somebody, he should be arrested and taken to court. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Asige.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I would like to also make a comment on the statement made by Senator Mwaruma on the non-registration of persons with disabilities in Taita Taveta, and of course, as we know, this is something that is happening all across our counties. Madam Speaker, it's really unfortunate that it is actually official that Cabinet has confirmed that they're knowingly delaying the rights of people with disabilities in the country. And if you listened, even in our meeting in Naivasha as senators, during the Senate Assessment and Planning Retreat, I remember I asked for CS for Health how disability rights are being applied and operationalized. And his response was astounding, that the Cabinet is still thinking about it, he said. They want to bring the law back and persuade parliamentarians that implementing the disability rights that we envisioned is controversial amongst the Cabinet. That's what he said. He didn't give any timelines, no plans, and no apologies. That response, Speaker, confirms what we as PWDs have felt all along, that disability rights amongst this state is treated as charity, as a suggestion, as a, we'll think about it. Madam Speaker, this is absolutely wrong and is in direct violation of our constitutional rights as people with disabilities. And what Senator Mwaruma has said is supporting exactly what I had feared all along. Madam
You
Speaker,
have 40 seconds more.
Speaker, when we passed that law in this House, as well as Parliament, the Assembly, we were hoping that the state would actually do something about it. But a year later, this year, May, will be a year after, they have done nothing. There are 8 million people, majority Speaker, with disabilities in the country, according to WHO. But only 900,000 have been actually recorded in the country. That means that there are over 7 million PWDs that are not recognized by the state. No voter registration cards, no ID cards, no disability cards. They are completely ignored by the state. And all we want is to be recognized and our rights and freedoms to be appreciated and given to us, because we are full and functional members of this citizenry. I thank you.
Senator Wakoli.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii. Kwanza ni kujiunga na familia ambazo na hoja ya Mheshimiwa Mundigi, Daktari Mundigi, Senator wa Embu County, ambaye ameleta hoja kwamba wapiga kura eneo lake waliweza kupoteza maisha kwa kudai haki ya afya bora. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwa sababu hii waziri wa afya alikuwa hapa jana na akadondoa hoja kuhusiana na zile pesa zinaenda katika hospitali za kiwango cha 4, cha 3 na cha 2 katika mashinani. Mheshimiwa Spika, baadhi ya magavana, Mheshimiwa Spika, hawataki kuwajibika na jinsi unajua wanavotoza ushuru wa Kenya. Wameweza kufurahia kwamba sekta ya afya katika kaunti zetu ndizo zinazotoa fedha nyingi katika magatuzi yetu. Sasa ni kusema kwamba fedha za wagonjwa ni tamu, lakini kuwatibu wagonjwa ni donda sugu. Mheshimiwa Spika, sasa lazima tuwaombee magavana ili wawache kumezea mate pesa za wagonjwa na washiriki katika hatua za kuwatibu wagonjwa hawa. Ningependa kumalizia hapo Mheshimiwa Spika ili wenzangu waweze kuchangia. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Mogeni.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, I wanted to comment on the statement that has been brought by Senator Mundigi, but also add one thing. You know, Madam Speaker, if we are making payments or compensating those who are victims of the police brutality, then we are also saying there are people in the police force who are involved. So if we are making payments, we should at the same time be seeing prosecutions. You see, that's why you are seeing somebody was killed during that time in Nairobi. Now Mundigi is telling us this problem has happened in Embu, because we have not dealt with the problem within the police force. You know, why we created the Police Oversight Authority was to ensure that they get rid of the bad apples within the police force. If we pay these Kenyans today, and we leave those police officers who killed people to continue serving, who tells you they are not going to kill people tomorrow? Today, it is somebody from Senator Mundigi in Embu. Tomorrow it will be Nandi. The day after it will be Nyamira. So, hand in hand, Madam Speaker, we should do what is done in the best international practices. Even in Arusha, as the reparations were being paid, criminal liability was also being pursued, because there must be accountability. Those people who are killed are people's children, Madam Speaker. You can't tell them, we have paid you, but they don't know what happens to the person who killed those innocent children. So I'm appealing, Madam Speaker, to our conscience to push, Madam Speaker, that those who are responsible should be identified and then criminal action should be taken. Secondly, Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I wanted to comment on the statement on the SHA payments, Mr. Speaker. Our county hospitals can ground to a halt if we don't get timely payments from SHA. I want to appeal to the government, Madam Speaker, to ensure that all pending bills to our facilities at the county level are paid as soon as possible. And there is a problem of fraud at our counties. If you look at the Auditor General's report, most governors are stealing money from hospitals. They collect the money, they put it in their pocket. Like one facility in Nyamira, Nyamusi Hospital, has been put off SHA. Women giving birth are being forced to pay 4,000 shillings because SHA has blacklisted that facility because of fraud. And that report is in the Auditor General's report. How, I don't understand what happens to some governors. How do you make poor mothers going to deliver to pay 4,000 shillings for a facility that...
Senator Thangwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise also to comment on this statement concerning police brutality in Embu, where two young men lost their lives. That is Maurice Njue Njoka and Patrick Kariuki Munene, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I rise to support this statement and ask for speedier investigation on this matter, Madam Speaker, I would want to remind this House that the man who says it is not my fight will one day fight alone, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have been here on numerous occasions raising issues on police brutality. But because we do have a mandate to defend our people, we cannot let such statements go unnoticed or discussed or enforced, despite the people who request them never say anything whenever we request such statements and whenever we ask for accountability from the police, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, this statement is a cry from the people and a cry about life, Madam Speaker. But I need, as the committee that is going to be tasked from following on this matter, Madam Speaker, we should also ask, is the IG of police, is the police department, is the National Police Service still moving on with the clarion call of shoot the leg for any demonstrator, Madam Speaker? Because you see, Madam Speaker, they could be following that clarion call, and we don't know their training. Maybe they are missing the legs and shooting elsewhere, Madam Speaker. So we would want to ask the committee to also request a statement from the presidency and the executive to denounce the clarion call, because probably the police are still using that statement, Madam Speaker, to do what they are doing today. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, when are we going to see any arrest?
Senator Ogola.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Madam Speaker, I would like to comment on the statement, the great statement by the Senator of Nairobi. And as I do that, Madam Speaker, I want to ask county governments why they have to punish our mothers for giving birth to humanity. It is unfortunate. Senator Omogeni, Senior Counsel, has just said that there's an hospital where women have to pay 4,000 shillings, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that is unfortunate, that is evil, and that is being very unfair to women. Because without deliveries, we'd have no humanity, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the statement by the Senator of Nairobi, it is a statement on onboarding of police officers, their prisons counterparts, and their dependents onto the Osalama medical cover. Madam Speaker, as this statement is looked into, I would like it to be enhanced that the benefits that are to the police officers must be enhanced. Madam Speaker, The services that the police officers give citizens of this country are noble. And so anything that can be done to make them comfortable as they serve us must be done like yesterday. On the same note, Madam Speaker, there's the issue of the medical cover of teachers in this country, SHA, to be specific. It is unfortunate that teachers are only having 1,200 shillings on their outpatient cover. And yet we know in our county hospitals, Madam Speaker, even when you go for services, laboratory services alone in some of the hospitals I've visited are over 1,500, Madam Speaker. So then what is the balance the teachers would have in their outpatient cover, Madam Speaker? All this must be looked into, and our public officers must be given comfort, Madam Speaker, in the course of their work because of the services they continue to offer to our people. Madam Speaker, I support that statement by Senator Sifuna. Thank you.
Senator Cheruyot.
Madam Speaker, I'll be very quick. First is on this statement by Senator Okoli, and I wish Senator Omogeni was here because he has made it a habit of giving information which is misleading on the performance of SHA. Because yesterday the minister tabled a very comprehensive response to all these issues that he keeps on raising. And I really wanted him to be here so that he reads the report and perhaps give his verdict based on the things. But that's not the reason why I stood up. Mr. Speaker, I stood up to condemn the innocent shooting of these two young Kenyans in Embu County. Madam Speaker, up to when shall we as a House continue lamenting? We are leaders. We have the responsibility. It is clear to us that our police are struggling with crowd control. And we have a very serious issue where, due to their struggle, we continue to lose Kenyans every other day. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, this cannot be allowed to continue. Condemning alone is not enough. Showing that you're angry, speaking about it in political rallies, as some have made it, Mr. Speaker, their political agenda, but they care a hoot about what happens to the lives and the families of these young people. We must rise up to the challenge of leadership. We must ask ourselves, as Parliament, as a Senate, what is it that we can do about this particular menace, Madam Speaker, so that we put it to a stop, so that no other Kenyan ever loses their life. Many of us, Madam Speaker, myself included, used to participate in protests as university students, as activists, Madam Speaker. But the police at that particular time, though you could see that there was obvious struggle, as is the case right now, Madam Speaker, it never used to result in the number of deaths as we are seeing in the latest statistics, Madam Speaker. Therefore, is it a question of training? Is it capacity? Is it lack of crowd management equipment? What is it? We must sit down as leaders, Madam Speaker, in a bipartisan way and find ways, have a conversation with the leadership of the police service and speak to each other like Kenyans and ask themselves, what is it that is leading to this kind of mess, Madam Speaker? Therefore, I will be proposing to the House, and I want to challenge those, Madam Speaker, who perhaps feel the need to rise to the challenge of the day, Madam Speaker, that we need to sit down in a room, away from the cameras, Madam Speaker, but as leaders to consider.
Honorable Majority Leader, that is a very good proposal. I hope you'll follow it too, through to the end. Next order.
Order number 8, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 15 of 2025, second reading, resumption of debate.
Senator Eddie Okech, you have a balance of 50 minutes.
I want to thank you again, Madam Speaker. And I wanted to say that this bill is one of the cornerstone bills that I hope that we can be able to pass as a House in this session. And I hope that in the spirit of what the Majority Leader said, that if it is possible to put pressure on the National Assembly to actually be able to churn out some of our bills the same way we are churning out some of the bills from the other side, Madam Speaker, it will be very critical. Because, Madam Speaker, more perceptive as you might realize, and for those members who were here yesterday, this is a bill that wants to rethink the idea of construction in the country with regards to how we can re-engineer our buildings to be able to meet climate resilience standards. Madam Speaker, this is a bill that also attempts to be able to bring about regulations regulations and some authority in the National Construction Authority to be able to redesign and rethink the national housing code that we have so that we can start retrofitting our buildings and our general construction in the country to meet the global standards of dealing with extreme effects of climate change. Madam Speaker, in the recent past, we have seen in countries not dissimilar to Kenya, including some places like Dubai, Madam Speaker, we have seen serious effects of floods, serious effect of extreme heat, and serious effect of storms due to climate change. To the extent that, Madam Speaker, you always have an either-or situation. If it rains, you have extreme floods. There is nothing like moderate, precipitation. And if it doesn't rain, you have got extreme heat, Madam Speaker. And sometimes when people look at places like Europe, and even sometimes in the United States, and start seeing wildfires because of extreme heat, it looks so far-fetched from us as a country to the extent that some people might think that this is so way removed from us. But if it is anything is to go by, Madam Speaker, is just the flooding that we have seen in Nairobi in the recent past and across the country, Madam Speaker, to the extent that the torrential rains that we have seen in this country affected us so much that it completely disrupted the lives of our people. And there is need to recognize that climate change is real, and we must be able to go to the global standards when we start thinking about serious building in our country, Madam Speaker. And the reason why this is important, Madam Speaker, we have seen that since 1962, there hasn't been proper and critical analysis in terms of our building code. Our national housing code, Madam Speaker, is one that is wanting. And therefore, there is importance in terms of rethinking climate change from an angle of adopting adaptive building codes in our country. This is what this bill seeks to look at. It is also important, Madam Speaker, that when countries that have made strides in terms of rethinking their entire infrastructure as well as housing, whether commercial or residential housing, people in advanced countries, Madam Speaker, are now looking at utilizing sustainable materials in building their homes as well as building their commercial entities, Madam Speaker, to the extent that people are so strong in Europe as well as in the Eastern world. If you look at Asia as a continent generally, and some specific cases in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, people are very keen on establishing cost divisions in their construction infrastructure to the extent that it is easier to rethink buildings with serious tracking of the carbon footprint of those buildings. And to some extent also, people are arguing right now, if you look at the global north, that it is actually possible to start looking at materials in terms of combination to the extent that you can come with the best mixture of material rather than the traditional construction that we always see in this country, where people are heavily depending on steel and cement. There is an advancement in other nations now looking at climate change, where people are now even trying to look at timber and glass as a combination to the extent that this can be able to reduce carbon footprint as well as deal with the issues of extreme floods, extreme heat, and extreme storm. And this redesigning and retrofitting of our building is extremely important, Madam Speaker, because if we do not enhance construction codes that can be able to help us deal with these vagaries of nature, then, Madam Speaker, we are not, first of all, competing globally, but more importantly, we are exposing our population to serious risks. A simple risk as even enhancing insulation, Madam Speaker. We should be able to talk about an environment where the National Construction Authority can be able to put regulations that ensure that there is thermal comfort in whichever place you find yourself doing a construction. For instance, I've had the chance of visiting Mandera, Madam Speaker, in the invitation of my good friend, Senator Ali Roba. And when you go to Mandera, Madam Speaker, the thermal comfort there needs rethinking in terms of how can you make the cooling effect of a housing element be something that is enhancing dignity and is comfortable for the people in Mandera, and also our families that are in the northern part of the country, Madam Speaker. So that, is there a requirement in our National Housing Code that we even try to implement passive cooling strategies in these kinds of housing? Is there a possibility that if you go to Mandera or Wajir or otherwise all these counties that experience extreme heat, that we can even start thinking about green roofs? We can even start thinking about specialized window designs that can be able to allow for communities there to live in some thermal comfort in these communities. But again, when you go to the extreme weather conditions, like where you come from, Madam Speaker, if you look at the western part of Kenya, if you go to Mount Elgon, for instance, we have got serious weather conditions that expose our people to cold that could even lead to pneumonia, Madam Speaker. Is there a possibility that this bill could be able to help the National Construction Authority to ensure that there is enhancement of insulation to the extent that is a requirement when doing housing in this region, Madam Speaker? Alongside this, Madam Speaker, we have seen in the recent past, when we had serious floods, that in our National Housing Code, there is no even rethinking about early warning systems within our building codes, Madam Speaker. People wake up in the morning, it rained in the night, you ask for your spouse, where is your spouse? The rain happened when they were at work, they left work in the evening, they could not be able to make it home. Why? Because there was no proper early warning signs in the National Construction and Housing Codes, Madam Speaker. So it's extremely important that, especially when you think about the urban poor, there has to be a priority in terms of thinking the entire construction in these urban areas, Madam Speaker. And the reason why I think this is a very important bill, Madam Speaker, for us to look at a house, is because the current administration has overemphasized the issue of affordable housing to the extent that we have seen affordable housing going on in the country, Madam Speaker, which is a very important thing. Because if you think about what's happening in Africa today, Madam Speaker, the affordable housing question is a priority of almost every single government in the continent. The only thing that makes difference for our country is that the administration of the day has been bold enough to actually implement it. Because if you look at the shortage that we have in the continent currently, Madam Speaker, experts put it at the shortage of housing is put at around 50 million. And Madam Speaker, that 50 million, if you are to contextualize it in the context of the population growth of Africa, Madam Speaker, today, it is projected that in the next 3-4 years, that is by 2030, we will have a shortage of about 130 million across the continent. Now, how does this manifest in our country, Madam Speaker? Today in our country, this shortage is about 200,000 lack of affordable housing per annum. Yet, even with the good effort that the President Ruto and the current administration has been able to put, we have only been able to have 50,000 availed housing. This is actually both in the private sector as well as in the private sector. But if you look at the affordability element, Madam Speaker, out of these 50,000 houses that have been given in the private sector through mortgage and in the public sector through the affordable housing by the current administration, only 2.2% is actually affordable. So there's a crisis here because we have a serious urbanization that is going on in the country to the extent that even our counties, which is our role to be able to actually align national policies with what is happening in our countries as a priority, in our counties, Madam Speaker, the county that is urbanizing the least, can you imagine, the county that is urbanizing the least is urbanizing at 4.4% per year. So the urban poor is always going to grow in terms of affordable housing. And that affordable housing cannot continue going on when there is no clarity in terms of how climate resilience is mainstreamed in the housing infrastructure. It's extremely important. And therefore, as this program of affordable housing is going, we would want to see a bill that can be able to help the national government and the county government rethink the entire housing code, Madam Speaker, in terms of that design and construction that will make sure that even as you construct houses, Madam Speaker, and as you construct buildings, you are using materials that will be able to ensure that climate change is not an issue that keeps on affecting our people. A simple thing as what is the required foundation for some of these non-elevated areas in our country that we see mushrooming populations that are not well done, they are haphazard in the counties. Who will be able to help us regulate this kind of housing, Madam Speaker, if not this kind of law? Because even where we have got serious flooding, if you have got a housing code that requires a bare minimum kind of foundation to be put in place, kids will not be waking up in Madare or waking up in Kibra, or even in Kabuto, in Migori County, where I come from. People will not wake up that because it has rained, somebody wakes up with their house flooded, and they cannot be able to survive. And Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I have even seen in this recent past that this does not only affect the residential places. If you go to industrial area, Mr. Speaker, you will find that a simple business that is employing so many people who go to industrial area, like a printing business, whether it's printing books or printing clothes, a printing business during the floods that we had lost 80% worth of their assets in terms of things that had been printed in these enterprises, simply because when the flood happened, it happened in the night, and during the day when they woke up in the morning and went to their shops were flooded with their goods already completely affected, soaked in serious water that could have been avoided if the National Construction Authority was very clear on what kind of housing code those commercial buildings could have been built on. And Mr. Speaker, it is also important to say that this bill will also be looking at the possibility of rethinking our infrastructural development in the context of the entire construction mechanism. Because let's face it, while you can do amazing buildings, Mr. Speaker, if you do not address the issue of proper drainage in Nairobi and proper drainage in our urban areas in the midst of construction, you are always going to face these climate hazards that we keep on facing, like what we see with the floods. We have seen this even in simple design on how waste management should be done. You cannot find a primate city today in the world, because now Nairobi is a primate city. You cannot find a primate city in the world, Mr. Speaker, that there is no proper focus on circular kind of consumption and circular control of waste management. Today in Nairobi, if you go everywhere, you will find that the best dump site that we have in Nairobi is the so-called mutaro. Somebody eats maize, it is thrown in the mutaro. Somebody, has a clothing piece that is not working, it is thrown in the mutaro. Somebody has any kind of waste, mutaro becomes their easiest dump site. What happens when this kind of rains happen? It goes without saying that the backlogs that happen in these mutaros end up affecting the entire drainage. So there is need to rethink and to retrot the entire infrastructural development in our major urban areas as we think about our national construction codes in this country, Mr. Speaker. We have also seen, Mr. Speaker, that the dangers that we're even facing now, we have got a number of pilots here. Like Senator Roba is a pilot, Senator Chute is a pilot. They will tell you that climate change is now even affecting extreme weather patterns when you go to our major airports, to the extent that sometimes approaching major airports, if you do not allow for proper dynamics of wind to these airports with the kind of buildings that we are building across the airports, Mr. Speaker, you could have extreme weather conditions that, coupled with poor housing codes that do not honor zoning, you can end up having a very big problem. And Mr. Speaker, you remember just in a few weeks ago, we had a member of this House, again, I don't know why problems keep on facing him, on a lighter note, but he was in a flight that crashed, crash-landed in Wilson. And if you look at runway 32 in Wilson, Mr. Speaker, it is being affected during extreme weather conditions because of lack of observance and adherence to serious zoning codes that have been placed in Nairobi and serious zoning codes that have not been reviewed in the entire urban area since 1962. So you can see that these things are all conjoined in a place that if we do not rethink the entire urban planning and policy so that we strictly have building codes that can be able to ensure updating of these construction requirements and regulations to be able to meet climate change and climate risks, then we are facing a serious time bomb in our country, Mr. Speaker. Alongside that, Mr. Speaker, I hope that this bill will also be able to enhance community-led solutions to some of these vagaries of nature that have got climate component in nature, Mr. Speaker. And one of those is just rethinking the entire financing and investment infrastructure. Because let's face it, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the kind of work that is currently being done with the affordable housing levy that we face in the country, the truth is it hits hard on the pocket of individuals. It shrinks the disposable income that our people have to the extent that it will be almost impossible to actually be able to achieve, the supply of almost 200,000 units that is needed in this country. Therefore, we still need to engage our communities to make sure that we have some financing solutions in terms of private loans and sometimes even civil society financing mechanism that can be able to allow these communities be able to acquire financial aid that can be able to allow them be able to get affordable housing as well as in their own ways be able to implement some of these climate resilience proposals that are in this bill. So, Mr. Speaker, because of time, and I wanted to, the senators in the House to also be able to contribute to this bill, I just wanted to say that this is a bill that will be able to look at Section 5 of the National Construction Authority and be able to insert under subsection 5 the element of promoting and enforcing the use of environmentally sustainable construction materials, and as I've captured in my remarks, look at the entire design mechanisms, look at the entire standards that are needed in the marketplace. If you have got standardized ways of having policy response to climate change, Mr. Speaker, then you can go without saying that the practices that are required in the implementation of those standards, Mr. Speaker, will actually be able to help us respond to the climate change risks that we are facing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Section 23B proposed in this bill, we are saying that if it's possible, Mr. Speaker, we can be able to rethink even the agencies that are relevant to the construction, so that there is more consultation that is happening between the authority and the agencies to the extent that is required with regards to availing the right approaches with the right climatic conditions that appear in some areas. For instance, if you're in Kisumu County, Mr. Speaker, and you are in Mandera, Mr. Speaker, the exposure to solar in those areas makes it possible perhaps to include in our national housing code that those places need to have solar energy systems incorporated in the buildings that we are going to establish in those areas going forward. But if you have to, if you're coming from some zones that perhaps need, cooling systems, it goes without saying that it will be important for us to be able to insert in this kind of law a requirement that will be able to allow a cooling effect or cooling mechanisms and designs in those areas that are facing more serious problems. So, Mr. Speaker, there's a whole new schedule that we are introducing in this act. That will be the fourth schedule that has got some of the responsive mechanisms that I've been able to talk about. I will not go through all of them because certainly we have got members of this House that will also be able to contribute. But in general, Mr. Speaker, some of these mechanisms cut across the issues of designs that can withstand extreme weather conditions, the issue of incorporation of green spaces and natural buffers to be able to ensure that we have got energy efficiency in the National Housing Code, and the implementation of those energy-saving technologies and designs is also going to be in that schedule. We have got also the idea around utilization of renewable energy resources in that schedule. Mr. Speaker, one that is also close to my heart is the idea of water conservation. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at countries like Namibia and Malawi, which are, decades and decades behind Kenya as an economy, people have thought about adoptive ways of ensuring that water-efficient appliances and systems have already been implemented in their housing codes. Why is this not happening in Kenya? Why is harvesting of rainwater still an issue that communities in Kenya are still struggling with, to the extent that grey water's recycling is almost becoming impossible because there's no harvesting of rainwater in Kenya? Mr. Speaker, I think these are supposed to be issues of the past if we can be able to implement this particular bill to be an active law in the country. And Mr. Speaker, I wanted to also look at the issue of pollution control. Mr. Speaker, today, and there was a serious documentary that was done by, I think, Citizen TV, if I'm not wrong. I can fact check and fact find this on the issue of concrete jungle that is coming up in our urban areas. For instance, a place like Kilimani, Kileleshwa, that used to be poshy areas, today because of serious urbanization and population bulge in Nairobi, they have become concrete jungle. To the extent that, think about our kids. When you are having a kid in Kilimani or Kileleshwa or this place that we have got these high-rises that have now come, the level of migraines and headaches that are in this area because of lack of proper air circulations in these areas is one thing, Mr. Speaker. Kids can no longer even play in safe playing places because all they have right now is to play within concrete jungles within their own buildings. Mr. Speaker, this is air pollution. And there is also water pollution as well as soil pollution in these areas. Because think about it. These are areas that, despite the fact that now there's technology around things like biodigesters, Mr. Speaker, they are areas that were not designed to be able to take serious sewer systems. So that if you've got a building that now, it used to be a bungalow that was supposed to only hold a family of 10, and now that compound is hosting 700 people in terms of a high-rise, and then you want to depend on a biodigester to deal with the sewer system in this area, Mr. Speaker, we are going to have a serious trouble, serious problem. So it is important that this particular act wants to address this by ensuring that there is safe disposal and management of wastes, both during construction time and during occupancy by families that end up occupying these particular buildings. And then, Mr. Speaker, I also wanted to mention very quickly that this bill also looks at the idea of climate resilience from a biodiversity protection perspective, Mr. Speaker. It is critical that even as we think about construction in this country, Mr. Speaker, preservation of existing and the entire ecosystems around natural habitats must be protected. There has been an attempt, Mr. Speaker, to actually encroach further in the areas that have got natural habitats and have got natural ecosystems that ensure that our biodiversity is protected, Mr. Speaker. We have seen, for instance, despite the fact that the idea of Bomas is a very good one, the Bomas conference facility that is being built in the Bomas, but you can see that slowly by slowly, it is encroaching almost to the park, to the parkland that was meant for natural, habitat for our animals. Mr. Speaker, there are people who come to Nairobi City from Europe, from the United States, and even some guests from the number of countries within Africa that come to Nairobi as the only city across the globe that has got a park, a national park, right inside it. That you can come to Nairobi, go book yourself in Serena Hotel, or go to Fairview Hotel, or go to Sankara Hotel, and then in the morning, you can actually go and have a safari, have a game ride within a city. The humongous element of the well-being of our population being contributed by such natural habitats, Mr. Speaker, cannot be understated. So it is critical that as we look at construction in general, infrastructure, housing, as well as commercial buildings in this country, we must be able to protect our biodiversity, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this bill will do exactly that if you look at under that first schedule. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, and I hope that Senator Cherargei is somewhere around the House, because I wanted Senator Cherargei to be able to second this bill, given that I had shared with him some of these concepts that I'm trying to explore. It is important, Mr. Speaker, that we start looking at things like health, wellness, and safety when we start thinking about housing. Because, as I talked about it in the concrete jungle, Mr. Speaker, ensuring that there is quality air is very important. But it is not only air that contributes to the well-being of our population, Mr. Speaker. Even natural lighting is extremely important in an age where we're talking about climate resilience mechanism in this country. Mr. Speaker, we have been to some of these buildings where you cannot be able to separate day and night when you go to some of these buildings that have been built in slummy areas, and even as well as these mushrooming areas that we see in this country, where people are doing buildings that are not akin at all to providing a natural light. So long as they can do maximum units, so long as they can build as many buildings as they can do, Mr. Speaker, people keep on, building these buildings without regard at all to health, wellness, and safety of our people, Mr. Speaker. And sometimes this even goes to extreme elements, to the extent that, Mr. Speaker, there are people who even use toxic materials that they're using toxic materials, Mr. Speaker, that when people in these houses end up consuming the units that they've constructed, Mr. Speaker, they end up actually consuming those toxic materials, Mr. Speaker. We've seen, for instance, a fight in the CIPIC, where we have been fighting on the use of asbestos as materials in the construction industry, to the extent that we are now facing out things like asbestos. But, Mr. Speaker, we need to go to the extent that we can even be able to push for low emission materials in these buildings. And sometimes, Mr. Speaker, this also comes to the issue of corruption. It should be in this National Housing Code that when you're found using this kind of toxic materials, you must be held liable. Because you keep on seeing zoning that are being disregarded. This is housing zoning, not the ODM versus UDA zoning, or Linda Mwananchi versus Linda Ground zoning. This is just housing zoning that has been promoted by the National Construction Authority that is not honored at all. So it's critical, Mr. Speaker, that as we implement this code that is being proposed in this bill, it is critical that we must be able to hold stakeholders accountable. Those who keep on defying regulations that have been put here must be held accountable. And Mr. Speaker, it will be critical that I say that if we can be able to pass this bill, we will be able to see proper living, better living, healthy living in our economy as a result of this bill. So I hope that Majority Leader will be able to push so that this bill passes the Senate, and when it goes to the National Assembly, I want to wish the Majority Leader in the National Assembly the courage to fast-track this kind of bills, because they will help us rethink our entire wellness as a country in terms of construction. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to move this bill and request my brother, Senator Sifuna, to second the bill. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the bill by Senator Eddie Okech on the National Construction Authority. Honorable Speaker, unfortunately, when he was moving, I was still attending to the students from the Catholic University, but we're finished. It is a pretty straightforward amendment, Honorable Speaker. As I've said, every time that I speak on a bill, you have to start with the memorandum of objects and reasons to understand what the sponsor of the bill is trying to cure. So, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the memorandum of reasons and objects, it says that the object of this bill is to amend the National Construction Authority Act, Cap 118, to include provisions related to environmentally sustainable construction practices and resilience against climate change within the construction industry. I think, Honorable Speaker, where we begin is that we who have lived in this country, who have lived on this planet thus far, are witnesses that a lot has changed in terms of climate. And Honorable Speaker, I was just looking at some of the data. Speaker, if you look at some of the data that has been put together in just the past 20 or so years, Honorable Speaker, from the year 2000, they say that extreme weather has become more intense, more frequent, and more unpredictable. While scientists argue about what the causes are, there are those who don't believe in climate change. We in Africa, and especially here in Kenya, have a lived reality, Honorable Speaker. Unfortunately, in the entire climate change conversation, Africa gets the short end of the stick because we are the ones who have to bear the brunt of the consequences of actions of the West, and especially when it comes to pollution. So, Honorable Speaker, examples are given that in 1997, at least we used to have extreme weather events, but they were very rare and almost followed a certain pattern, Honorable Speaker. Some of the examples that have been given is the 1997 El Nino flooding. Honorable Speaker, we all remember that phenomenon. And the 2008 to 2010 drought that affected about 10 million Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, in 2020 to 2023, this country experienced the worst drought in the last 40 years. And of course, there was severe flooding. I think in the year 2023, Honorable Speaker, we lost very many lives here in Nairobi in areas such as Mathare after the flooding that we experienced. In the 2024 floods, Honorable Speaker, we had 300 deaths arising from that extreme weather event. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, as Kenyans, this is our lived reality. So if you look at the proposals that Senator Eddie is putting forward, all that this bill seeks to do is to entrench designs that withstand extreme weather conditions. And this you will find in the fourth schedule, where he is proposing, Honorable Speaker, that climate resilient, the designs that have to be approved by the National Construction Authority have to be designs that withstand extreme weather conditions. In fact, here in Nairobi, we have had cases, Honorable Speaker, that after long sustained rains, we have had buildings collapsing because of the weight of the water. And we want to be able to incorporate in the designs that are approved by the Construction Authority those that can withstand extreme weather conditions, and for us, especially flooding, Honorable Speaker. Then you will see that under Part B, the bill proposes that those designs must also have energy efficiency in them, implementation of energy-saving technologies and designs. There is actually a requirement, Honorable Speaker, that solar water heating be installed on all residential houses in Kenya. But it is never, ever followed in the constructions that we see, and we need more enforcement to be able to take care of that. And there's a reason, Honorable Speaker. Electricity continues to be one of the biggest pain points for Kenyans when it comes to cost of living. And of course, the situation has been exacerbated just recently, Honorable Speaker, with the high cost of fuel. As a member of the Energy Committee, I am aware, Honorable Speaker, that the cost of fuel is one of the most, the highest component. When you look at your electricity tariff, the cost of fuel is one of the most, the highest and the most painful for Kenyans. So therefore, there is a need for us to explore energy efficiency in constructions for us to be able to cushion our people. And I don't think that enough has been done, Honorable Speaker, to regulate the quality of even these alternative energy sources, the quality and the cost of these components, because we still have, Senator Eddy, situations where these energy efficient technologies are still subject of taxation in our tax codes, and which makes sure that the cost is very high. Nobody would refuse, Honorable Speaker, the proposition that you can actually have a power plant in your house that frees you from electricity bills. But try buying solar batteries, Honorable Speaker, to power a house like a 3 or 4 bedroom house. You will have to pay through the nose. It is not something that every Kenyan can afford. So we need to do more in order to lower the cost of these energy efficient technologies to ensure that we save Kenyans the pain of the cost of energy. Honorable Speaker, there is also the question of water conservation. I'm just going through that fourth schedule, that we need to adopt water efficient appliances and systems and rainwater harvesting and grey water recycling. Part of the problem we see with flooding, Honorable Speaker, is that many of our buildings do not have rainwater harvesting and grey water recycling systems. So when it rains, Honorable Speaker, there is no way to control and channel this water so that it can be safely evacuated. And I am happy that the bill proposes that we should have an amendment to the building code so that we adopt those water efficient systems. Then, of course, Honorable Speaker, there is a question of sustainability, that we should employ sustainable materials in construction. This cannot be gainsaid, Honorable Speaker, because the planet is grappling with a lot of waste, and we need to find a way to be able to utilize that. So you can see the bill proposes the use of recycled, renewable and locally sourced materials. And this will also contribute, Honorable Speaker, to a greener Kenya and also to promote local industry. One of the things that I have noticed, Honorable Speaker, if you go to many of the constructions that are happening, a lot of the material that goes into these buildings is shipped, and especially from China. You can imagine, Honorable Speaker, you go to many of these apartments you see coming up in Kilimani and in the other areas, somebody puts up a 20-story building, and all the doors are imported from China. All the windows are imported from China. All the MDF cabinets are imported from China. We are killing local industry by not being able to support our local fundis, our local seremalas who can make doors, who used to make doors, Honorable Speaker. So if this bill passes, we are hoping that we can reverse that trend and give priority to locally sourced materials. Of course, we have to up our game, Senator Eddy, in terms of efficiency of manufacturing, in terms of putting out all this material that is required so that you don't delay construction. You have to address the issues of quality and so on and so forth. We also don't want to put our forests in further peril, and we need to be able to look at all of those things to ensure that we progress without regressing. Then, Honorable Speaker, there is the question of pollution control, measures to reduce air, water and soil pollution during construction, and safe disposal and management of construction waste. I just wanted to touch on one last thing, Honorable Eddy, and through the Speaker, on the question of health and safety. Speaker, you know that Kenya banned asbestos roofing in the year 2006. But as a senator of Nairobi, I know that there are still public institutions, including schools, Honorable Speaker, that continue to have asbestos roofing. So one of the things that we need to agree, although the government told us that there would be a first removal of asbestos, Honorable Speaker, we still have very many institutions that have asbestos roofing, and yet it was known in the 80s, Honorable Speaker, that asbestos has carcinogenic properties and it causes health risks. There have been other things that have been invented, Senator Eddy, some materials that when they catch fire, the fumes that emanate from there actually make it more difficult for you to survive if you are caught in that environment because of the materials that have been used in order to manufacture them. So the health and safety concerns are there, and the bill addresses the use of non-toxic and low-emission materials. Honorable Speaker, in construction. Overall, Honorable Speaker, and I can see my chair of PAC, who's actually an expert on matters of environment and climate change, has just come into the House. I want to allow him to teach the House and to educate us. Yeah? No, he's an expert. He's an expert, and in fact, when it comes to matters of climate change caucuses in this parliament, he's the head of that caucus. So with those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second the bill and congratulate my brother Eddy for this straightforward amendment that is going to cure something that actually is a problem. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 15 of 2025, be now read a second time. Okay. Yes, Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, as I rise to second this bill, I want from the onset to celebrate my brother, the youth, the real youth. Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy young people are some of the people, the guests in your gallery are mostly young people in school. It is important that they have come today, that we are discussing the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill 2025. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate Senator Eddy Kisheru Okech for bringing this amendment, although he had promised me to second, although he didn't honor that promise. But being a gentleman as I am, I will nevertheless support this amendment, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, the issue of climate change is a very serious issue. And you remember in 2023, the African countries made a declaration here in Nairobi on the issue of climate change. And it became a global concern that how do we handle the issue of climate change. Because, Mr. Speaker, the hottest year since 1800, when the fossil fuels are banned, has called global warming and also human impact that has implicated. And that is why in 2024, it was the hottest year in the history of mankind. I don't know, Speaker, whether you noticed that it was hot in 2024, and it brings some effects that we saw through prolonged famine and drought across the countries and across which was unusual. Even my region, Mr. Speaker, where it is normally the rains are heavy, Mr. Speaker, it was very hot. I know there are hot things in this city, like hot chilies, hot things. I know my chair of PAC knows there are things which are hot that I don't want to mention because this is a PG-rated program. It is parental guided program. Madam, Mr. Speaker, they say the heating is in the test of the building. And I know when the chair will say something about declaration of climate change, which was adopted in 2023, and I appreciate that he has led a caucus of issues of climate. We need an urgent climate action, which Senator Eddy is trying to do through legislative and policy intervention. That is the role of Parliament. We need to come to action We need to ensure that there is green economic growth that focuses on green industry, sustainable agriculture, and utilize Africa first renewable energy potential, aiming middle income status by 2050. So, Mr. Speaker, this was the Nairobi Declaration. And I think Senator Eddy might have read this declaration, and that is why he has degenerated this on the urgent climate action, the issue of green economic growth, that is proposing that whenever we use zoning, we must use things that are environmental friendly. So, Speaker, there is also natural capital utilization and focus for adaptation and many others, and Africa's position. We remember, Mr. Speaker, we have been very slow, especially the role of Africa. I remember I went to Mandera, and I saw where women under the Governor Roba and then had interrogated them to plant trees and take care. It's called Adopt a Tree. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate a young man today who has just planted almost 24,000 trees, Mr. Speaker, in Kaptagat, Mr. Speaker. And I think we need to celebrate. I don't know whether Senator Eddy knows that that young man who planted almost 24,000 is called Hilary Kiplagat Biwot, true founder of Green Earth Ambassadors, that planted at Kesup Forest Block over 24,000 today. And I want to thank PS Chris Kiptor for rewarding him with a Pro Box, Mr. Speaker. And I want to advise people like Senator Ososi to be using Pro Box. It is also a way of escaping dragnet of goons, Mr. Speaker. So if he wants to borrow some tactics, Mr. Speaker, he should also borrow from some of us. Mr. Speaker, I can give him pro bono advice on how to survive inside the rain. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, and use Panya routes. Don't use the normal ones. Mr. Speaker, not the main roads. Therefore, I want to celebrate Hilary Kibiwot, who happens to come from Nandi for Kesup Forest Block and has planted close to 24,000. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Senator Eddy in the spirit of broad base. The President has said we plant 15,000. Is it 15 million? Is it 15 billion trees? Is it 15 billion trees? 15 billion trees that the President has proposed, Mr. Speaker. That is also to mitigate the climate change effects. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of asbestos, I went to another school in Nakuru Girls, and I realized almost all buildings are under asbestos, Mr. Speaker. And there is a disease that the public health will tell you, asbestosis, where you feel chest tightness. And also it has carcinogenic products, materials that can cause cancer. Mr. Speaker, you have to explain, and I want the National Assembly to allocate budget. Because, Mr. Speaker, to remove asbestos is very costly and expensive. And even we have banned, Mr. Speaker, in 2014, no one can comply because it's expensive to remove, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I agree with this bill under clause number 2, the amendment of section 5, that promote and enforce the use of environmentally sustainable construction materials, design standards and practice that enhance resilience against climate change. And I agree, even I'm happy women have taken lead, Mr. Speaker, and I've seen innovation even in sanitary pads that nowadays they are using that are environment that is easy to dispose. Mr. Speaker, I want also to say the issue of Pampers, Mr. Speaker. Also, I know Senator Eddy is here to reach that stage of buying Pampers. We wish him well as he tries to get a good girl and get married and get babies. Then he can understand why we are discussing the issue of Pampers, because it is also still a challenge in terms of disposing, Mr. Speaker. Even the banning of I don't want to discuss outgrowers that he might have, but I'm just saying what the Republic of Kenya knows, and Senator Kajwang should be a good friend because he's an expert in such areas, Mr. Speaker, especially on dowry negotiation. I normally see him over the weekend with the stick and the big coffee. He's a certified dowry negotiator. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of zero tax, I agree on because I'll run through because I want to listen to my chair who is an expert in issues environment. It's also relevant zoning. So, Speaker, we need to zone. I can see the former ODM deputy party leader, when I mentioned the word zoning, he became too alert, Mr. Speaker. I'm not discussing about ODM zoning or UDA zoning, Mr. Speaker. I'm talking about zoning that NCA should ensure within designated zones, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, have you been to Kilimani of late? They have built so many huge buildings. I was with another gentleman, and I don't know what is happening with Nairobi approval physical planning. I hope the senator, not the senator, the governor of Nairobi is following this conversation. Because it is the work of county governments to do approvals of some of these buildings. Most of these buildings in Kilimani and Nairobi are not environmental friendly, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this NCA, the issue of zoning, should ensure that buildings shall be required to install solar energy systems. Because if you go to Eastern Asia, Mr. Speaker, and even to Dubai, although I saw when the bombs were happening on the issue of Strait of Hormuz, Mr. Speaker, I don't support America nor Iran in this fight. I'm as neutral as it should be. Many people no longer travel to Dubai and UAE Emirates, Mr. Speaker, yet you can see they have succeeded in integrating environmental friendly, and they use a lot of solar. We have solar farms that we have in this country, Mr. Speaker. Although we had a scandal on independent power producers, where the local solar solar farms are selling to independent power producers at the dollars, and I know that we did investigate that matter. That is what is driving electricity to go up. But I agree, Senator Eddy, you should also propose, in your wisdom, that we need to zero rate the issue of solar panels. And lithium, Mr. Speaker, because if you buy one solar panel, it's 15,000 Kenyan shillings. You buy a lithium battery, comes to 150,000, Mr. Speaker. How many Kenyans can be able to buy 150,000 lithium battery, Mr. Speaker? We need to zero tax, and I want to challenge my president and my broad-based partners that we need to zero rate, so that, you know, Kenya Power is a monopoly, Mr. Speaker. We need to give, I want when I come to your region, Garissa, Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, all those places, Mandera, at least in Garissa is connected to national grid. But you go to Mandera, Wajir, Marsabit, Turkana, they are not connected to national grid. We should allow them to use solar. And the only way to encourage them is to ensure that we zero rate the issue of solar products, Mr. Speaker, so that they can also enjoy the use of electricity, Mr. Speaker. Can you believe when you are in Mandera town and there is this river called River Dawa? Is it called River Dawa? Just across. There is electricity in Ethiopia. But Mandera does not have electricity. They were just given, and I want to thank President, he sent 2 generators. But because of the heat, they get too hot, and then they switch off, Mr. Speaker, and affect the service. So the issue of solar, and I want to agree with Senator Eddy, that we must agree as a nation that if we are truly genuine on the issue of climate change action that happened in 2023 in Nairobi, we must and should allow the issue of solar energy systems to be zero rated, Mr. Speaker. Personally, you know, I gave up on Kenya Power. If you come to my private hacienda, my palatial residence in Mosori at Nandi County, Mr. Speaker, I use solar. Because the electricity is no longer reliable. When it rains, it likes Mr. Speaker, it likes when it rains. I don't know what is the ratio between the rain and the electricity. Because when it rains in this country, electricity disappears, Mr. Speaker. It is like when you are removing clothes from the dry hanging line, Mr. Speaker. So I want to appeal that the issue of zoning, the issue of physical planning within Nairobi, Senator Eddy and Nairobi governor, who has been fairly very incompetent, and I hope the broad-based government does not give him any ticket. He should go to Linda Mwananchi. Mr. Speaker, because if you go to Kilimani, it is very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, and therefore the zoning, in fact, the zones designated that shall include areas that receive
Senator
average.
Osotsi, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on Standing Order 105. I think my good friend Cherargei has made reference to the governor of Nairobi being incompetent and suggesting that because the governor of Nairobi is incompetent, he should not get a ticket from Broadbase, but he should get a ticket from Linda Mwananchi. I want to inform him that Linda Mwananchi is not yet a political party. It may become a political party, but it's not yet a political party. And again, Linda Mwananchi advocates for progress. Progress. We are not going to take any mediocres. We are not going to take those who have failed elsewhere into the Linda Mwananchi brigade. So I just wanted to inform him that we are not preparing this movement so that we can take over those who have failed elsewhere.
Thank you for that information that my brother, I'm told, but you know, Mr. Speaker, what is being very selective with the truth, because Linda Mwananchi has registered a political party called People Renaissance. So, but anyway, I agree with him. If somebody has failed anywhere else, he should not be allowed to hobnob. Because, Mr. Speaker, I will, in fact, if you allow me, Mr. Speaker, if you'll be around during the weekend, I can buy you coffee within Kilimani, and then you see how people are suffering. There is no longer sunshine. Children are suffering from jaundice. You know, when we were doing, or jaundice, when we were doing biology, the non-exposure to sunlight is a dangerous disease, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, our children in Kilimani and other areas which have high-rise buildings, Mr. Speaker, is still a problem. And I hope when you get time out of your busy schedule, we can take coffee around that place and you'll be able to see yourself and appreciate why. So the issue of zoning, I agree that it should be focused on, Mr. Speaker, this is zoning on issue of planning, physical planning, not political zoning. And since, Mr. Speaker, you know, Senator Eddy, I hope he will attend the Malindi rally where young people will be addressed, and encourage Senator Eddy, since he's a young leader with progressive ideas, to resist this temptation of political zoning. If you come with political zoning, you are undermining democracy, which you are a political godfather. Right Honorable through the Speaker, Raila Amolo Odinga, envisage a country that is climate friendly politically, Mr. Speaker, that you can run for any political office without being politically zoned. Political zoning, Mr. Speaker, is another name of direct tickets, Mr. Speaker. It's another aspect of direct
Eddy,
ticket.
what is your point of order?
It's another aspect, direct ticket. And
Mr. Speaker, you know, I appreciate that Senator Cherargei is contributing to my bill, and therefore I don't want to interrupt him because I'm taking a lot of notes here and a lot of wisdom. But Mr. Speaker, if he takes the chance to misinform the public and misinform the House, then it's not correct. Because under 105, you must be factual. The idea of zoning does not curtail democracy. The idea of zoning, first of all, I need to make it clear that Mr. Cherargei, that personally I don't support zoning. The reason being, I am very competent in Migori County, and I'm sure I'll be elected without zoning. And I can be elected in any party in Migori County. However, the zoning element that is between UDA and ODM is exactly that for that coalition, that it should UDA and ODM go to a coalition, then the zoning is for the two parties involved. It does not negate any other candidate who want to use any other political party or even go independent from running. They can use any other party. There are a lot of other parties. It is wrong to indicate that if there is zoning between UDA and ODM in their regions, then it means that people will be stopped from vying at all. People will still be allowed to vie. It is their democratic right. But just with other parties, the zoning is just between UDA and ODM for those who want them to talk about that zoning element. It's important to clarify that. And it's also important to clarify to you, Senator Cherargei, that the essence of zoning is so that respective political parties can be able to have numbers in the House in case of a post-coalition and post-election disagreement. Then a political party should be able to have its members that are strong enough to be able to run a democratic House like this. Because you can imagine if there is no zoning in some places and then UDA end up taking all the seats, or ODM for this matter end up taking all the seats, then they will harass UDA in parliament. When UDA, they end up, maybe their marriage is broken after the election. So there is pros and cons to the idea of zoning. But all in all, I don't necessarily support zoning because I can be able to win. But zoning is just between UDA and ODM, not all other parties. People can still vie in other parties, even if UDA and ODM were to choose to zone.
Mr. Speaker, and I've noticed you are clerk's office are not freezing my minutes
Not
when I'm being intervened. It was frozen? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know I'm always comfortable when you are in the seat. I remember today when you are chairing national security, you gave me a very ample time to prosecute matters of national interest. Mr. Speaker, and therefore, on the issue, Mr. Speaker, the issue, I wondered, we are issues of zoning under the amendment. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to inform Senator Eddy that political zoning is another name of direct ticketing, and it belongs to lazy politicians who don't want to campaign. Personally, Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't have a problem running against an ODM candidate in Nandi County. So I want to encourage Senator Eddy as a young progressive to reject this notion of political zoning so that we can allow the growth of democracy in our country. And to inform him that the matters today UDA and ODM met in State House and everything is in order, Mr. Speaker, because there was perception that there is differences between ODM and UDA. I want to confirm to the country that ODM and UDA marriage is intact and it is very progressive, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, because I've seen my time is fast spent, and I wish Senator Ledama would allow the expert on issues of climate to listen so that he will assist us with some clarification. I know Ledama might want to sell him Enkanaza milk or Enkanaza honey, but Mr. Speaker, the green spaces are natural buffers, and I'm a consumer. Although he still owes me some money, which I paid, but he didn't deliver milk, but I hope he will give me milk after this. Utilization of renewable energy sources. There is also green spaces and natural buffers. There is also water conservation, sustainable materials. Mr. Speaker, I think as a country we should push the issue of solid management and recyclement. I think we need to agree. When you go to Wajir, and I know the governor of Wajir doesn't like me because when you go to Wajir, there is no dumping ground, Mr. Speaker. You have been there. You have supported development programs in Wajir, Mr. Speaker. Here in this Nairobi, when you drive through Waiyaki Way, the incompetence of Governor Sakaja shocks us. When you drive at Waiyaki Way, the dirt is on the road, Mr. Speaker. Go here, Kirinyaga. That is all over, Senator Eddy, through the Speaker. That is the incompetence. You drive through Kibra, that bypass. The people of Kibra are suffering, Mr. Speaker. They need renaissance. Let me not say political renaissance, because it will, the party that is also below, they need a renaissance in terms of leadership, Mr. Speaker. There is also minimizing through efficient water, recycling renewable and locally sourced materials, Mr. Speaker. Safe disposal.
Senator Cherargei, do you want to be informed by Senator Osotsi?
No, I will listen to his submissions later.
Thank you. Proceed.
And today, Senator Osotsi is still shining like the aluminium foil. I don't know what he has eaten today. Mr. Speaker, can you add me 2 minutes because I have been interrupted regularly by my colleagues on pollution control. 2 minutes only.
Conclude.
Please, 2 minutes. Pollution control, Mr. Speaker, is we need to agree. I normally drive and see vehicles that still don't adhere to the standards. And I think we need to encourage the use of electric vehicles and many others that are environmentally an issue of biodiversity protection. We agree, especially in our areas, and also ensure walls to support urban biodiversity and allow so that we can ensure an use of non-toxic and low-emission materials. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks and with your indulgence, I want to congratulate.
Give him 1 minute to conclude.
Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank Senator Eddy as I support this bill and wish him the very best as he vies to be the governor of Migori. Mr. Speaker, I support and I thank you for the indulgence.
Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this amendment to the National Construction Authority Act that has been proposed by Senator Eddy Okech. And Mr. Speaker, I could be a bit underwhelming because the previous speakers have painted me as an expert on the subject matter. Mr. Speaker, I have had the privilege of leading a climate caucus in this parliament. And Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that in the month of May, all African legislators will converge here in Nairobi at the Senate for the Interparliamentary Union Conference on managing emissions from methane. Methane is a gas that contributes significantly to global warming, but it has not been addressed properly and scientifically, because every time we speak about methane emissions, we think about pastoralist lifestyles, and we think about cows and camels and goats and the emissions that they make. And so African countries have not really plugged into the conversation on methane, but we want to bring that debate to Nairobi. And so in the middle of May, Mr. Speaker, just after the Africa-France conference, we'll also be having the Interparliamentary Union here at our parliament for a conversation on methane. I'm very happy that Senator Eddie Oketch has brought this amendment to the National Construction Authority Act. And yesterday I asked him, how come the National Construction Authority has not proactively thought about this? Because, Mr. Speaker, the carbon footprint of the construction industry constitutes close to 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The construction industry is one of the biggest emitters. And if you look at the components that are used to do our traditional houses, from cement to steel to the aluminium and everything else that's used in the construction industry, they are all very carbon intensive. Mr. Speaker, even if you look at the cost of keeping our houses cool, or keeping our houses warm, or keeping our water hot and clean, it is a significant expense, and it has significant impact on carbon emissions. And again, with rapid urbanization, I heard Senator Eddie say that the least urbanizing county is urbanizing at 4%. We are seeing gradual urbanization. We are seeing the government coming up with an affordable housing program that we are putting huge tenements in urban centers that will pull people from the villages to the centers. And with rapid urbanization, the construction industry's contribution of 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions is bound to rise. But it shouldn't rise if we can do the things that Senator Eddie has proposed in this particular amendment. What Senator Eddie is proposing is, first of all, to have mandatory solar system installation zones, and also to amend the schedule so that the fourth schedule can have climate change responsive mechanisms that will be mandatory and that will be considered in construction activities. Mr. Speaker, if we have a pure or a clear strategy on decarbonization of the construction industry, we can learn some lessons from a few countries that are not very far from our neighborhood. Mr. Speaker, we recently visited Namibia and went to a project called the Oshivela Project. And we found indigenous Namibians, Africans, producing iron ore using green hydrogen. And by that, they reduced the carbon footprint of traditional iron ore production, which typically uses fossil fuels, significantly. And how do you produce green hydrogen? You split water, because water is 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. And how do you split water into hydrogen and oxygen? A simple process called electrolysis. In fact, Mr. Speaker, some of these things we are taught in school. Many of us here studied chemistry all the way to university. But now putting into practice how to separate H2 from O so that the O water can go into production and the H can be used as an alternative energy source, that is where we fail to get things right. And so, Mr. Speaker, when we went to the Oshivela project, we saw a concept that was being done for the first time in Africa, where the iron ore is mined. Then when the iron ore has been mined and placed in a blast furnace, instead of using the traditional fossil fuels using coal, they use green hydrogen to produce iron pigs. Now, they had certain limitations that the iron pigs still had to be exported to Europe so that it could be alloyed to produce steel. But there is potential for us to use, I wouldn't even call it cutting-edge technology, because H2O is something that we are taught in school, just to put into practice the things that we learn in school. And that can only be done if we create an environment where innovation is rewarded. We create an environment where there is certainty when it comes to policy. And we create an environment where there are incentives If some young people from Technical University of Kenya were to decide to put into practice electrolysis and they were able to produce green hydrogen, could we incentivize them? Could we get them away from the clutches of KRA? Could we build some industry around them to enable them and to encourage other people with similar aspirations to do the same? So it is possible to decarbonize the construction industry through innovation. And Namibia has demonstrated that you can use green hydrogen to produce iron, and because iron is one of the biggest components when it comes to the construction industry. Again, in cement production, Mr. Speaker, cement that we buy, and for some years we've been importing cement. And Mr. Speaker, some of the richest men in Africa have become rich because of cement. And that tells you about the construction boom going on across Africa. But cement is also not something that came from heaven, because cement is about mining the clay or the limestone, as they are doing in West Pokot, then grinding it, then putting it into a kiln, then heating it to temperatures of 1,500 degrees centigrade. Then you produce clinker. And then you combine that clinker with gypsum, and you produce cement. And Mr. Speaker, this is why I agreed with some policy pronouncements previously made by the national government, which I hope has been enforced, that there's no reason why you should be importing clinker. We have enough limestone. We have enough clay in this country. Perhaps what we don't have is sufficient energy to light up those furnaces. But there's coal in this country. But as the Oshivela project in Namibia has proven, we can produce green hydrogen. You could imagine if Devki and its plant up there in West Pokot was getting limestone locally and then splitting water which is widely available through electrolysis and using green hydrogen to produce clinker. Perhaps that could reduce the cost of cement, and that would definitely reduce the carbon footprint of the construction industry. Today, 8% of global carbon emissions comes from cement production. Mr. Speaker, you can imagine what we could do, how much we can lower it if we went into innovation and applied some things that have already been done. Aluminium production is the same thing. Why are we importing aluminium? The story is that we do not have sufficient energy to do the processing that is required for aluminium. I don't think that locally in Kenya there is any company that is doing aluminium right from the raw material to the finished product. But again, using innovation, we can cut down that cost, and aluminium production again contributes to 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Mr. Speaker, Senator Eddy talks of solar zones. Now, in my mind, if this is a responsibility that is going to be given to the national construction industry, I would want the national construction industry, and agree with Senator Eddy when he says that our building code needs to be revised. Our building code needs to be modernized. Those of us who come from black cotton soil areas, Mr. Speaker, if you have to build a house in my village, you must dig 3 meters down, 3 meters through the black cotton soil. And then you start compacting. You start putting steel. You start putting, it is as if you are building a road. At that time, you are probably just building a 2-bedroom house. The foundation itself is more expensive than the structure that is going to come up. Because we are using a building code, I think a British standard, that has not been revised to be fit for purpose. And it is highly inefficient, it is very expensive, and it discourages many people from building. So we would want the National Construction Authority to relook our building codes and ensure that certain things are made mandatory. One of the lowest hanging fruits, Mr. Speaker, is when it comes to water conservation. And Senator Eddy has proposed that under the 4th schedule, water conservation can be one of those things that NCA must look at. A lot of us here are wasting water from the roof. This country, and if you live in Nairobi, there is sufficient rainfall that if we were able to store the water that comes from our roofs, then we'll never have a problem of water shortage. And it happens in many areas. You find a school has been built with a lot of iron sheet roofs, but not a single gutter, not a single tank. And when you go there as a Mheshimiwa, you are told, Mheshimiwa, help us to get water. And you can clearly see the potential of harvesting rainwater. In Namibia, again, a country that rarely experiences rain, Mr. Speaker, even though rainwater harvesting is not mandatory, it is part of their DNA. that you are not going to build anything without putting a gutter. And sometimes I wonder if you have the money to roof your house, the money to wall your house, and the money to furnish your house, the money for guttering and putting a tank should be the least. And you have seen, we as politicians, those people who want to run against us, some of the campaigns they do is to walk around and giving out water tanks as if it is rocket science. Mr. Speaker, I believe that in public institutions and even private institutions and even affordable housing projects, no rainwater should be allowed to go to waste. It should be captured, it should be put in tanks, and it should be used and perhaps cleaned up because it will provide a fairly cheap and clean source of water for those establishments. So rainwater harvesting and grey water recycling is something that NCA must insist on when making approvals. Mr. Speaker, Senator Eddie Okech has also said that NCA must look at issues of energy efficiency. You may have noticed that if you go to a hot town like Mombasa, there are certain hotels that are very cool, and there are certain hotels that are very hot, that you must use air conditioning. And Mr. Speaker, I usually find it interesting. Why is it that in this hotel you can sleep without AC, and in this other one you must have the AC on? And you'll notice that the ones where you must have AC on, there's lots of concrete, lots of glass, lots of steel, lots of aluminium, things that absorb heat and make the rooms hot. But you go to certain hotels, and that's why a place like Lamu, it has got a unique architecture. You can find a house without air conditioning, but it is fairly cooler than the modern houses. How do we ensure that we implement or we come up with building plans and building designs that minimize the use of modern cooling? In our case, it's cooling. In other countries, it's about heating. I think in Europe, heating is a big problem, such that when the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out, the biggest issue was how Europe was going to survive winter if Russia was not going to supply the gas required for heating. But in our area, it is about cooling. Can we ensure that our designs and our architecture and our projects are done in such a way that we can take advantage of natural wind flows, vegetation, and all that, so that we reduce the emissions that come from cooling technologies? If you go to places where the AC is mandatory, sometimes you feel sorry for the owners of the establishment, because you find an apartment with 10 ACs and they have to be on throughout the day, throughout your stay. You can imagine the kind of emissions that is. So if we can have a building code and we can have designs that take advantage of natural circumstances for natural cooling, I think that will go a long way in demonstrating our leadership as a climate champion across Africa. Mr. Speaker, sustainability of materials used in construction. As I'd illustrated earlier, cement, steel, aluminium, and all those other components, and the big trucks that are used to deliver cement to site, contribute very highly to global greenhouse gas emissions. But if NCA could insist on the use of recycled, renewable, and locally sourced materials, and minimizing waste through efficient design and construction practices. Mr. Speaker, these are things that any plan that is sent to NCA for approval must meet. These are standards that a building plan application must meet. And I don't think that this would in any way impose any additional cost on developers, because it's just about being innovative. It's just about being ingenious. Because some developers just pick building plans from the 1950s, and it's the same thing that they want to be approved today. If you go to some urban centers across this country, you know there's a traditional way that shops were being built by the Indian merchants. If you go to like Vihiga, Maseno, even parts of Kisumu, places like Kindu Bay, places like Homa Bay, there's just one structure where there's a huge facade, and then there's a long go down behind the building, and it's been the plan from the 1930s to date. The people doing building plans must be innovative, and they must start thinking about aspects of climate. Mr. Speaker, incorporation of green spaces and natural buffers. I do recall we visited Russia at some point in the last parliament, Mr. Speaker, what surprised us was that Kenya's ambassador to Russia, or is it High Commissioner to Russia, was living in an apartment, not the way they live in gated estates in Muthaiga and Runda. Our ambassador was living in an apartment, but that apartment looked like a 1-acre property because it's an apartment of the 40th floor, but it has gardens, it has grass, it has trees. It is possible. This concrete jungle that we're building in Nairobi, we must insist that we incorporate green spaces and natural buffers in every project that we do. Mr. Speaker, it's possible to do that even on the 50th floor, on the 60th floor of buildings, and that has been proven in countries such as Russia. Finally, Mr. Speaker, Senator Eddy has also indicated that NCA must look at issues of pollution control, whether developers are putting in place measures to reduce air, water, and soil pollution through construction. Mr. Speaker, asbestos has been outlawed in this country, but it's still there. Actually, in most of the old schools, national schools, the big old schools, asbestos is still there. Mr. Speaker, we need to ensure, perhaps through the national government CDF, which as contentious as it is, but the reality is that it's still going on, that no NGCDF fund should exist for more than 3 years and still you have asbestos roofs in that constituency. Mr. Speaker, it's a mockery because instead of going to build a new school somewhere and yet your best school there, for example, in Homa Bay County, Homa Bay High School, one of the best, finest, oldest schools, you still find asbestos roofs. That should be the priority before opening a new dormitory or before opening a new library somewhere there, because the lifelong effects of having asbestos lingering around our children is too high. But, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, it is possible for a home to warm itself, to cool itself, to be sustainable as far as water is concerned, and even to feed itself. A home can feed itself by tapping into water, rain harvesting. A home can feed itself by using that water to set up a small garden. A home can cool itself through innovative construction and innovative architecture. A home can heat itself through innovation. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that if we upgrade our building code, perhaps we'll shave off 30% of the current cost that we are incurring, and we'll also be able to shave off at least 30% of our current emissions coming from the construction industry. We must continue supporting innovation. And Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge that even as we look at the future of this country, let us be leaders in words, not just in words. Let us be leaders in deed and do some of the things that small neighboring countries like Namibia are doing. Our children can produce green hydrogen, and that can be a substitute to the fossil fuel, and that can place us squarely on that road to climate leadership. I know currently most of our energy is from geo, and it is green, but it is inadequate. Mr. Speaker, an economy like ours cannot run on 3 gigs of electricity. And the barriers have been policy uncertainty. Policy keeps shifting. Fiscal policy keeps shifting. Incentives keep shifting. Mr. Speaker, I support this amendment, and I encourage Senator Eddy to ensure that this matter quickly goes through the National Assembly so that it can be assented to by the President, so that by the time when we are doing the Conference of Parties on Climate Change in Ethiopia, that will be COP32, we can go there and proudly say that we pushed legislation that added to the climate response measures in Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Olekina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, very briefly, I rise to support this bill, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, sponsored by my good friend, a young man educated at Yale University, one of the best universities in the world. And I have to say that Eddy is very progressive, but sometimes the way we develop legislation in this country limits our ability to become innovative. I love this bill. And when I was reading through this bill, the only problem that I have with this bill which I'm currently going through with my bill on seed varieties, on amendment to CAP 326, is a conflict between 3 ministries. Currently, I'm facing a very big fight between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Trade. Because in my bill, I'm introducing a parallel seed standardization process to be oversighted by the Ministry of Trade under KEBS. Now, I've taken my time to read through Senator Eddie's bill, and I see a conflict between 4 different 3 ministries and the county governments. Number 1, NEMA is a state agency under the Ministry of Environment and Climate and what else? And Fisheries. NCA is a state agency under the Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Planning. And then number 3, we have EPRA. EPRA is a ministry under the Ministry of Energy. And I want my dear brother to listen carefully. First of all, I want to put myself to the shoes that I wear on a daily basis of a developer. The first thing that goes into my mind is that, wow, look at all these regulatory bottlenecks. Look at the entire cost that now this bill is empowering NCA to be able to do the work of urban planning, which is the work of the county governments, to do the work of energy regulation by zoning certain areas and designate them as solar areas. That is the work of EPRA. Then now, we now have the issue of, there's the issue of 3, energy. Number 2, there's the issue of urban planning, which is reserved for county governments. There's the issue of zoning, which is something that is shared between the Ministry of Housing and county governments. And then there's now the issue of the regulator to ensure standards are put in place, NCA. Now, as a developer, I will be opposing the bill because I'll say I'll pay NEMA, I'll pay NCA, and I'll pay EPRA for me to get a license. I want to beseech my brother to reduce the powers given to NCA to be setting standards. Leave NEMA to carry on with its task when it comes to the issue of the environment. Leave the county governments to be able to deal with their urban planning. But NCA set up standards. Mr. Speaker, if my brother would follow that, this bill will pass through very fast. Because as a county government, I'll be concerned, I'll be saying I'm the governor. But I do not have the revenue which the Constitution gives me to issue permits for construction. Now, NCA, this monster, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We love the environment. You know, NEMA gives you an environmental impact assessment. They give you a license to that. You pay them money. NCA, you pay them money. County government, you pay them money. I'm concerned about that issue. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, because I want to be very, very, very brief on this matter. I love the fact that the bill promotes and enforces the use of environmentally sustainable construction material. It is important. Mr. Speaker, when you go to Narrow County and you go to those very luxurious lodges that we have in the Mara, which we invite everybody to come. They are constructed with environmentally friendly material. Love the bill. I want now for us to see new cities coming up, because this concrete jungle that we live in now in Nairobi and now other urban areas, nothing will change. But we can tweak it a little bit to make sure that we use environmentally friendly, materials. I'll give you an example of a building in Nairobi, which when this building came out, I think in 2019, a space in that building was being sold for 20 million. This is Greenhouse Building along Gong Road. They created that building to a point where your energy cost would be very low because of all the glass and the environmental friendly. I wish you could have built more of those buildings. My only concern in this bill, and I want to persuade my brother, is on the issue of zoning certain areas and giving NEMA that power to say that in this area, because there's a lot of sunshine, all constructions here will have to be solar friendly. They have to install solar. I think we should leave that open so that I don't have to go to NCA now to get a license so that I can be able to put solar in my building. Mr. Speaker, my home, the home I live in, my entire house, I have maybe 70 kVA solar, my electricity bill. In fact, KPLC is the backup. One more minute, Mr. Speaker, and I end. KPLC is my backup. But now, if I have to go to NCA to get a license for me to be able to put solar in my building, that will be a problem. Number two, this mandatory solar installation in certain areas and to be determined by the authority in consultation with other agencies is a problem for me. That one we need to change. Finally, Mr. Speaker, because of time, and I'd like my colleague to be able to comment on this, I want to end by saying this. I support this bill, but I would like to request my brother to amend to ensure that these regulatory overlaps are done away with. NCA overbearing regulations, that is what I would deduce this bill to be. The NCA will have so much power, it will be overbearing, to NEMA, to, everyone. And then also there'll be a lot of cost associated. You do not want to be navigating through the hurdles that I'm currently doing with 2 ministries. Now yours has got 3 ministries and the county government. I rest my case. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Olekina. Senator Osotsi.
Speaker, for this opportunity to also raise my comments on this bill, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill has some sweet and bitter aspects, but I want to join my colleague, Senator Olekina, to say that maybe the owner of this bill needs to look at those aspects which are of concern. And this has been raised not just by the members here, even I've been reading the report by the stakeholders. They have raised concerns on some of the issues. But of importance, Mr. Speaker, is that this bill is giving another function to the NCA of having to ensure that the buildings will now be environmentally friendly in terms of the material and in terms of resilience to climate change. This is a very important aspect, Mr. Speaker, because if all the buildings are going to have solar systems, then that is going to help us to address many issues in terms of energy use, and also to some extent ensuring that our homes are properly lit at night, and that in a way, especially in the rural areas, helps to reduce incidences of insecurity. But, Mr. Speaker, I think even as we give NCA more roles, we must ask ourselves, has NCA lived to its mandate or not? Mr. Speaker, I think that's a very important concern, because we have had many complaints around the function of NCA. And now, because of the incompetence at NCA, we have had cases of collapse of buildings, especially in Nairobi, where you saw the other time we had a building that collapsed in South B. We have had cases in Eastlands where buildings have been collapsing just because of some element of incompetence around NCA. We have had complaints around the registration and the licensing delays that people have complained that the request for registration or licensing have taken a long time to be addressed. I think that's an issue that must be looked at. Even the system, the portal, has been experiencing a lot of downtimes because of largely technical incompetency. Issues of rejection of application or registration of licensing without any valid reason, without any explanation, have been voiced, Mr. Speaker. Issues of inconsistent site inspections. They come and give approval for some milestone assessment, and then you find that next time someone else comes and gives a different inspection report. This has been reported so many times. Harassment, especially of small contractors and small fundis, has been reported. Issues of corruption, Mr. Speaker, where some officers from NCA have been asking for facilitation fees so that they can approve your license or even your registration or even your construction. That has been on the rise. And also the cost, high cost of operation. If you ask 0.5% of the contract sum as either as a fine or as a penalty, Mr. Speaker, that is quite expensive. If you look at it in terms of the number of constructions that go on and even the volumes of construction that go on in Nairobi, then you realize that this is quite high. They have issues about high training cost, especially for fundis, small fundis in the village, Mr. Speaker, asking them to pay exorbitant amount of money for training, annual training. That is not right. And considering that NCA is largely or heavily a Nairobi organization, it disadvantages those who come from villages. Those have been concerns. I just decided to raise this because even as we give NCA more mandate, we must look at what have they done with the mandate they have. But I want to agree with the owner of this bill that it is important for this country to ensure that buildings that are constructed are environmentally friendly, are resilient to climate change, and the materials used are not only cost effective, but they are also environmentally friendly. But even as we talk about environmentally friendly, the issue of durability, these materials must be durable so that they can last for many years to come. Senator Kajwang, when debating on this matter, he said that we need to consider low carbon alternatives to cement and concrete. Mr. Speaker, we have bamboo. Bamboo is a very, very good material that can be used, that is environmentally friendly, that can be used. We also can use stabilized soil blocks, where we have soil and mix it with a little cement or lime, and this can also reduce the cost, make it more durable, and also environmental friendly. We have something called the ferroc. Ferroc is basically made from the steel dust. In most cases is wasted in our steel plants. And the advantage with this is that it absorbs carbon dioxide as it hardens. And it is even more stronger than concrete. These are some of the things that we can consider when we talk about environmentally friendly materials. Mr. Speaker, I also want to propose that even as we amend the NCA Act to provide for environmentally friendly material, we also need to consider amending the building code, because the building code that we have does not really factor in the aspect of environmental friendly, and it is long overdue. I know it is new as at 2024, but you find that many aspects, especially on environment, are not covered. And a lot of reference is still being made to the code developed in 1968. You still find a lot of reference to that code. I think that tells you that it is high time that we have a more comprehensive code that addresses all these issues. Mr. Speaker, even as we look at this, we must consider the issue of conflict, of regulatory conflict. The conflict that is likely to exist between NCA and NEMA. NEMA issues permits on environmental aspects in building. NCA is now being mandated to do the same. There is likely to be a conflict there. So I think the owner of this bill needs to look at that. We also have the issue of duplicate mandate. For example, we have a role that is being played by county governments in terms of approvals. We have a role that is being played by NEMA. How is that conflict going to be resolved, Mr. Speaker? So I think that needs to be looked at and improved in this bill. And I think this bill is, with those amendments, it would be a very timely bill to help in ensuring that we have buildings which are environmentally friendly. And as I talk about the building code, there are many other aspects that the building code does not cover. For example, the building code needs to talk about integration of technology in our buildings. You find that many buildings in this country do not have room for technology integration. I think that is a matter that also needs to be put there. The issue of, if I take you back as I finish, to the issue of NCA. NCA have to look at ways of limiting foreign contractor dominance. Because most of the buildings around here, you see that they're being done by foreign organizations, and yet we have local expertise. I think NCA must resist the temptation of creating space for dominance by foreign contractors at the expense of our own local contractor. I heard the other day the chairperson of Engineers Registration Board complaining about this, that we are taking away jobs that should actually be done by Kenyans. I think the right organization to help us in addressing this problem is the National Construction Authority. Mr. Speaker, allow me to end there and support the bill with the improvements that members and myself, we have suggested. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Mugeni.
This bill is very important. That's why I've sought your indulgence, that you give me an opportunity to make some contribution to the bill. And I want to thank my good friend, Senator Okech, for bringing a bill that is intended to take care of our environment and take care of future generation. But, Mr. Speaker, I hope that once this bill passes through the second reading, Senator Okech will do a comprehensive engagement with key stakeholders in the industry. I know that there are many professionals who will, in one way or another, be affected by the way we pass, after the passage of these amendments. I hope you are going to engage the Board of Institute of Engineers. I think that's how it's called. I hope you will get time to engage the Institute of Quantity Surveyors, stroke engineers, so that they give you their input. I hope you will get an opportunity to talk to the Association of Architects. Is that how we call them? Yeah, so that they also give you an input. This is a fairly comprehensive amendment, Mr. Speaker, and you know the people who will enforce, if at all this bill sees the light of the day, will be these professionals. Mr. Speaker, you know that the Constitution states in black and white that housing is a devolved function. So the people who will be tasked with ensuring that there is compliance will be our county government. So it will be also good to engage maybe through the Council of Governors, our governors, just to be sure that they have enough professionals who can help us just in the event that this law is passed. But I wanted to get clarification, maybe as Senator Okech replies. When you say a designated place for solar, have you put maybe some definition in the bill so that when a contractor is building, he will know that what we mean by a designated place for you to put solar panels, somebody knows. Because remember, the contractor will be required to comply with the new amendments. So you may think, Senator Okech, that you do a proper definition of what is a designated place for solar. And I don't know whether you have also done, whether you have updated yourself. There is a big booklet. In fact, I don't know how Kenyans will be able to read it. There is I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's called the 2024 Modern Building Code, that replaces the small booklet we used to use, the 1968 Building Code, the one that was borrowed from England. I think now we have moved to the one they call, is it Eurocon now? It's very big, and I think a few of what you have put here has actually been addressed in that building code. If I get time when we move to the second reading, Mr. Speaker, I'll be able to share with Senator Okech some of the proposals in this bill that are captured in the building code. But I think the initiative is good, Mr. Speaker, and when somebody makes an initiative like this, I hope that the National Construction Authority will also reach out. I hope they have reached out to you so that they be a key stakeholder that you can engage. You know, Mr. Speaker, yesterday CS Duale, CS Health, was before the Senate, and he made some comments, I think out of the sympathy he has for the people of Nyamira. And he said he wanted to be very frank to the people of Nyamira, and he said healthcare in Nyamira has collapsed. And I thought the response from my good friend, Governor of Nyamira, would have been to reach out, just pick a phone call, get an appointment, come to Nairobi, go to the office of CS Duale, a very dedicated public servant who wants to improve our healthcare. But I saw this morning, I think at 11, the governor of Nyamira called a press conference. Duale has nothing personal against the residents of Nyamira. I think its only concern is that they have done an evaluation, which I believe is professional, and found that healthcare in Nyamira has collapsed. Okay? And I expected the governor to reach out. But instead, Mr. Speaker, I heard him hurling abuses at the CS and saying, CS, you have personal interests. I'm going to expose how corrupt you are, which I thought was very unnecessary. I want to advise my governor, through you, Mr. Speaker, that when some of these issues are raised on the floor of the House, it's because we want service delivery to reach our people, Mr. Speaker. As we speak, CS Duale discovered a lot of fraud in one of the level 4 hospitals called Nyamusi. And that hospital, as we speak, has been deregistered from provision of SHA. And citizens of Nyamira who go to Nyamusi, and that's where the governor, honorable governor, comes from, don't get services, Mr. Speaker. Instead of abusing the minister, the CS, the cabinet secretary, what I would have done, Speaker, if I was the governor of Nyamira, would have to reach out to the CS, Duale, engage him, ask him to restore the provision of SHA to Nyamusi Hospital so that our women who are giving birth can get these services using the SHA card. But telling the CS that you have never visited Nyamira, you are corrupt, we know the personal interest you have, it doesn't help our people at all. And he says there are a number of payments that have not been made to the county government of Nyamira by SHA. The CEO SHA is a good lady, Dr. Masi Mwangangi. I'm requesting and making an appeal to my governor to also make use of his senator. My office in Nairobi is open. Anytime he wants an intervention, any assistance to, if there is money that has not been sent, let him talk to me. I've sent money to Nyamira now. My budget is over 6.2 billion. When you put together with conditional grants, on source, we are dealing with 8 billion. But I was shocked today that the governor is confessing that Nyamira has no MRI. I don't know whether in Garissa you have an MRI machine. I don't know about Migori, Mr. Speaker. But to call for a press conference and confess before the residents of Nyamira that there is no MRI machine for cancer screening in Nyamira was shocking to me. To confirm to the residents of Nyamira that the last time we received a consignment of medicine to our hospitals was in May, and that since May, the next consignment was being delivered today. It's a big disappointment. So, Senator Okech, don't adopt the style of my governor. Reach out to the National Construction Authority. Engage them and let them enrich this bill. I may also propose an amendment. I ride on your bill. You know, there is the first time the National Construction Authority was, created through the National Construction Authority Act. Contractors, local contractors, are they contractors or builders? People who are constructing new buildings used to pay. Don't know whether you know that. They used to pay some money to get a permit from National Construction Authority to build. But because of agitation, because of the negative effect it was having on the industry, that was removed. Now the only people who are forced to pay are foreigners, which is a good thing. The foreigners are forced to pay. If you want a license to do a construction in Kenya, you are forced to pay. So my good friend, Senator Okech, this is a good initiative. We must take care of our environment, not just for the current generation, but also for future generation. There is no reason why, Mr. Speaker, people of Garissa, people of Migori, because those areas, you enjoy sunshine throughout the year. There is no reason, Mr. Speaker, why they should not build homes with designated places for solar. Even me, I have some interest in Migori. If I ever did something there, I'll ensure that I try to comply with your act before even it becomes law. Create something and use solar, because there is enough sunshine there. I don't want to take a lot of time, Mr. Speaker. I support this bill with the rider that we'll have engagements with professionals in the field. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mogeni. Senator Eddie Okech, you may reply.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you again for this opportunity. It is very important, Mr. Speaker, that I first of all take the opportunity to thank the senators who have actually given us a lot of feedback on this particular bill, starting with Senator Sifuna, who actually seconded this bill, did it justice, and combined it with the challenges that we face, even in terms of cost of energy and other things that we experience in the urbanization that limits access to sustainable living in the country. I want also to thank Senator Cherargei, Senator Kajuang, Senator Ledama, Senator Osotsi, as well as Senator Mogeni, who have contributed to this bill. They have raised some very important issues that I think that will be important for myself, together with the committee, which actually I chair, the Transport, Roads and Housing Committee. Some of these ideas that have been shared here, I will definitely give them a look, Mr. Speaker, and I'll make sure that, where necessary, we can be able to bring up amendments that will respond to them accordingly. But, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to stress, especially to Senator Redama, that this is actually an industrial policy bill, an industrial policy bill that seeks to bring about standards that needs to be met in the industrial construction sector. Because if you look at it that way, then the cross-cutting element of it in the Ministry of Environment, Land, where we are housing this in NCA, and Environment where we are housing NEMA, or otherwise Energy Ministry where EPRA is housed. If you look at it as an industrial policy where you are trying to standardize regulations and policies around construction, then I don't think it's hurting to these particular ministries. But I'll have another conversation with the senator. He's also the whip of the minority side, so his wisdom is certainly welcomed, and I'll talk to him to see how we can be able to find a nexus between the conflicting element that he has raised, as well as the overarching nature of an industrial policy that seeks to standardize the industry. Mr. Speaker, the point I also wanted to respond to very quickly is the point of generating solar energy systems. This was raised by Senator Cherargei. I think it's an important one that we'll find how to incorporate. However, I wanted to tell Senator Cherargei that the challenge when I was doing this bill, I had thought about this. And the challenge is that Article 119 would catch up with us, in the sense that when I start putting the tax element and generating taxes, then it becomes a finance bill that might have a challenge in terms of timeline that can be passed. So Senator Cherargei, that was the challenge that I was having here. I hope that when this bill passes and goes to National Assembly, I'll follow through personally with the majority leader in the other house and a co-sponsor in National Assembly to ensure that they can be able to perhaps try that amendment of zero-rating the solar energy systems. Then my brother Senator Mogeni has raised a very important issue here around the issues of the housing code that has been reviewed. Initially it was an housing code of 1962 and then adjusted to 1968, but then it was recently reviewed in the 2024 review. I'm aware of this, Senator, but what we're looking at here, which is lacking in that housing code, is that the prescriptive element of what constitutes materials that are used in our industrial zone in the housing industry that can be able to allow for response to climate resilience. Because the climatic risks are not defined in the housing code. I read it, which is why I came with this as a chair of transport, housing, and roads. The problem is there is no clarity on what is the industrial standards of responding to climate change. So I want to give you a good example that comes to my mind very fast. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the houses that have been constructed in Nairobi, the story building, you'll find out that most of them have got strength to weight ratio problems. That's why you see that sometimes you see story buildings falling, collapsing after construction. And there is no consideration of between that strength to weight ratio vis-a-vis the topography of the area as a result of climate change problems. So that when there is a lot of flooding and maybe the water table is low, nobody ever says how is that contributing to the strength of cement, for instance. But when you go to Europe, there is a material that right now that they use called CLT, cross-laminated timber. Cross-laminated timber is this timber that they have picked the kilns on the board and sawn lumber timber, and they put it at 90 degrees so that the strength and rigidity of that timber withstands even where the topography is poor. And then it becomes a renewed material that can be able to respond to climate change. And if you look at the carbon footprint on CLT, it is equally lower than cement. These are not defined in our housing code. Our housing code is more looking at the zones where something is supposed to be built. It's more administrative and geographical. So these are the things that we wanted to explore in this bill to make sure that industrial standards are met in terms of making sure that climate risks of high floods, extreme heat, and extreme storm can be responded to with the materials and the designs that we put into our buildings. So we looked at it, but again, I reach out to Senator Mogeni on the side to discuss where necessary and where we can be able to bring some amendments where necessary. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, Senator Sotri brought about a very serious issue around corruption. And this is a big problem that we face all the time. Where licensing on zones that have been established, people go and defy those by basically paying money. We've seen places where approvals and inspections are not to establish standards, and they keep on being ignored because there's corruption in these areas. This, I think, is a big part that we must respond to, and I'll try and as well try and bring amendment that can be able to mainstream a standardized policy around corruption. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all these senators. I think this House definitely has got depth and quality in terms of just the nuance in debating, considering bills, and certainly this has been one of those very inspiring sessions where these senators have really contributed to my thinking in terms of strengthening this industrial policy. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to reply. However, pursuant to Standing Order number 663, I request that you defer putting of the question to a later date, given the quorum that we have in the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Eddy. The putting of the question has been deferred. Honorable Senators, looking at the order paper, orders number 9 to 12 will have to defer because there's a lack of requisite number of senators in the House to go to division. Order number 13 is also deferred. Mover is not in the House. Order number 13. Order number 14 is also deferred. Orders 15 to 19 is also deferred. The movers are not in the House. Order number 20, the mover is not ready to move. It is therefore deferred. Order number 21 to 25 is also deferred. The movers are not in the House. Honorable Senators, there being no other business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 28th April 2026 at 2:30 p.m.
Yes. You use glasses? No, those ones are for. Somebody forgot. She forgets the skills.